90.5.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer and the champion of liberty, of human equality. Let's salute him, fellow Ghanaians, the nation's founder, Sajifo Kwame Nkrumah. May God bless him, Ghana showboy, Africa's great son, Sajifo Dr. Nkrumah.
Ago, when you come, Madam Makasa Kakra, and when you come in when Tiam Kakra, Menkasapi. Damabara Makade, Bakans Babukakran, and Yamakan Fancy. At long last, the battle has ended. And thus, Ghana, your beloved country, is free forever. And here again, I want to take the opportunity to thank the chiefs and people of this country, the youth, the farmers, the women, who have so nobly fought and won this battle. Also, I want to thank the valiant ex-servicemen who have so cooperated with me in this mighty task of freeing our country from foreign rule and imperialism. And as I pointed out at our party conference at Sorbonne, I made it quite clear that from now on
we must
90.5 change our attitudes, our minds. We must realize that from now on we are no more a colonial but a free and independent people. But also, as I pointed out, that also entails hard work. I am depending upon the millions of the country, the chiefs and people, to help me to reshape the destiny of this country. We are prepared to build it up and make it a nation that will be respected by every other nation in the world. We know we are going to have difficult beginnings, but again, I am relying upon your support. I'm relying upon your hard work. Seeing you in these thousands, it doesn't matter how far my eye goes. I can see that you are here in your millions. And my last warning to you is that you ought to stand firm behind us so that we can prove to the world that when the African is given a chance, he can show to the world that he's somebody. We shall no more go back to sleep anymore. Today, from now on, there is a new African in the world. That new African is ready to fight his own battle and show that, after all, the black man is capable of managing his own affairs. We are going to demonstrate to the world, to the other nations, young as we are, that we are prepared to lay our own foundation. As I said in the assembly just a minute ago, I made it point that we are going to see that we create our own African personality and identity. It's the only way in which we can show the world that we are ready for our own battle. But today, may I call upon you all that at this great day, let us all remember that nothing in the world can be done unless it has the purported support of God. We have done the battle, and we again rededicate ourselves not only in the struggle to emancipate other territories in Africa. Our independence is meaningless unless it is linked up with the total liberation of the African continent. Let us now, fellow Ghanaians, let us now ask for God's blessing. And for only 2 seconds, in your thousands and millions, I want to ask you to pause only for 1 minute and give thanks to Almighty God for having led us through obstacles, difficulties, imprisonment, hardship, and suffering to have brought us to the end of our trouble today.
5 minutes after 9 here on your power station, Radio Gold 90.5 FM. Saturday morning, it is 17th of March, and you know what happens on Saturday mornings between now and 12 midday. When we move out of here, I hand you over to the sports team. It's Alhaji and Alhaji, the mother of all talk shows, where we say it as it is without mincing words, looking at the issues that have trended throughout the entire week, bringing it on or in the tangents that were lost out during the entire discussion throughout the week. Here, your thoughts, your views, and your comments play a very important role, and so we always encourage you to send us your thoughts, your views, and your comments on Alhaji and Alhaji. I hope your Saturday has started that well. My name is Sami Eshen, and I'll be your host on today's edition of the show. So what are we looking at today? We have tabled for discussion a thorough look at the fight against corruption in Ghana as President Akufo-Addo starts prosecution of past government appointees. Is it a case of witch hunting or government cracking the whip on corrupt officials? We would also look at the first Deputy Speaker of Parliament's statement of shoot to kill galamseyers and the 1,800 cars for Maslock and related matters. The deportation of some 120 Ghanaians from Libya and 86 from USA, and the nature of the treatment that was meted out to them. That's the issues we are discussing today on Alhaji and Alhaji, the mother of all talk shows. As always, we take the time to take you through the headlines of the newspapers today, and then after that we would interact on social media. So on the front page of the Ghanaian Times newspaper, it has a picture of some suspects who have been rounded up by the police, and it says police grab 130 in a swoop as crackdown on criminals intensifies in Accra. FDA bans meat from Enterprise Foods of SA. First extensively drug resistance TB recorded in Ghana. 3 jailed for insanitary practice, and Jacob Zuma to face corruption trial. That's on the front page of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. You will find on the front page of the Daily Guide newspaper, squatters vacate president's house. Opuni's 27 charges not witch hunt, Attorney General declares. Petrol station robbers jailed 47 years. That's all on the front page of the Daily Guide newspaper. The Daily Graphic has on its front page, Ghana records first drug-resistant TB case. And it's got a picture of one Dr. Frank Adebunsu, the program manager of the National TB program. Scrap allowances for teachers, nurses, Valley View VC. And intensify sex education to reduce teenage pregnancies. That's according to the Member of Parliament for North Dai on the front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. The Spectator has got beautiful pictures of 2 ladies, and it says 87% youth smoke cannabis. The Spectator flaunt your Ghana wear promotion. And Patricia down cut all the way, and the sextortionist blackmailing prominent pastors. That's all on the front page of the Spectator newspaper. Those are the headlines of the papers that we have with us this morning. I've already taken you through the issues we are discussing this morning on the show. My guests to help me do that, Mr. Kwesipa Jr., Managing Editor of the Insight newspaper, Professor Nino Dowuna, Senior Lecturer at the University of Ghana, Legon, Comrade Murtala Ibrahim Mohammed, is a former Deputy Trade and Industry Minister, and lawyer Godwin Eduji Tamaklo is a legal practitioner, and they will be helping me do justice to the issue. So whilst promoting the issues that we have tabled for discussion, I told you of how you can get interactive with us today on the show, and simply just go to Facebook and Twitter and look for the handle at Samuel Eshen GH. At Samuel Eshen GH. It's all spelled together, and Eshen is spelled ESHUN. You find me there, and then you can add me and start sending your comments through on the show this morning. We are streaming live on Facebook, and you can watch the show live on Facebook by going to the wall of PAP MCGH and Radio Gold 905 FM on Facebook. PAP MCGH is together, PAB MCGH and Radio Gold 905 FM. You can watch the entire show live on PAP MCGH. So that's by way of getting interactive on the show this morning. You can listen to us live on our website www.radiogold905.com, and you can monitor us live as well. If you go to the Google Play Store and search for Radio Gold 90.5, you find our application there. You install it on your phone, and you will be able to listen to us anywhere in the world. If you're unable to install the application on your phone, go to the TuneIn application and search for Radio Gold 90.5. You'll be able to listen to us live on the TuneIn application as well. We are live on many affiliates all over the country, and so you can monitor us on any of the affiliates that is picking the feed live on their network. But if you're unfortunate to have any of these affiliates, simply just monitor us through the feed I just gave you, and when your comments do come through, I will read them. So we start our conversation with a look at the fight against corruption in Ghana, and the prosecution of past, government appointees that has started. Is it a case of witch hunting or just due process being done? I'll start off with lawyer Godwin Eduji Tamaklo. Good morning.
Well, good morning, my brother Sammy, and good morning to Uncle Kwesi Pratt. It's always nice to be back to the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji. On the issue before us, the fight against corruption relative to the commentary by the Attorney General that this fight, particularly in respect of the prosecution of Dr. Stephen Kwabna Opuni and Alhaji Seydou Agongo and Agri Court, she makes the point that it is not witch hunting, and that by the time they are done with the prosecution, it will be obvious that it is not witch hunting. My commentary this morning will be in respect of the comment made by her and the topic. It's important to make this point that the NPP obviously was in opposition, made the issue of corruption a campaign issue. And so therefore, whilst in opposition, they came out with very, very, very outrageous, in fact, almost impossible propositions. In fact, some of the allegations they made are beginning to turn out to be false. It's also important to make this point that because the management of the Ghanaian economy by the NPP is turning out to be nothing but just talk shop, because it's beginning to turn out that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's much touted economic wizardry has now turned into a mere walk in the park. He cannot, as it were, deliver on the promise. And you notice that one of the tapes played had to do with certain, Guta members, national executives, speaking to the economic difficulties that they are going through. So government, having come to the realization that they have lost the economic plots, have decided now to jump on the bandwagon of so-called fight against corruption. I will demonstrate clearly why the position that the Attorney General, whose powers emanate from the 1992 Constitution under Article 88, by proceeding to prosecute these individuals, is doing nothing but witch hunting. And I'll demonstrate that briefly. Look, my brother Sammy, never in the history of this republic, never, have you seen a situation where 2 weeks ahead of time, the Attorney General goes to court, filed 27 criminal charges against individuals, okay, 2 weeks ahead of time? I've never seen that before. At least in my short practice, I've never. Now the question is, having even done that, these scripted charges, trumped up charges, are immediately released to surrogates of the government. In fact, the first time I saw this whole thing was a Facebook post by one MPP propagandist, 27 charges against Dr. Opuni. Then he writes, mercy. So as we speak, you can trace the records of the court, the registry, you won't get it. But government propagandists have it. Because at the time when government decided to go and file this thing on the 14th day, Ghanaians were discussing the issue of the bust matter relative to the sale of oil and the alleged corruption involved in it. And the fact that for a sale of that nature, it ought to have been done competitively. And so that sale was done in breach of the Procurement Act of this country. So for government to divert attention from that, it was quickly to go to court and file these charges and now say that the accused persons are supposed to appear in court on 23rd of March. What in God's name will be the basis of this case? Now, when we say that these prosecutions are witch hunting and that they are only for political purposes, the basis is this one. When our president Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo did a tour, okay, a tour of the eastern region, okay, when he did a tour of the eastern region, one of the things that he said was, and at that time there was a huge issue about the Special Initiatives Ministry and the brouhaha surrounding it. So during his Eastern Regional tour, this is what the president said, and he is a foremost lawyer. He said, quote, when muninama omo kase ma bain kitashishye ewomu, very soon yebehu those who are corrupt. Si started in Krofoko Kota yebehu. Just on the 6th of March 2018, during the independence program, he delivered a speech. Again, he made the point that very soon we are going to start the prosecution of public officials who... So at all times, our president has been teleguiding the whole prosecutorial processes. Now, why do you think our president is so much in hurry to prove that previous appointees were corrupt? Having lost the economic plots, the only way is to play on the emotions of Ghanaians. 2, because as we speak, there have been series of allegations of corruption involving this government, and the fact that the president himself has assumed the mantle of clearing his appointees of these corrupt acts, it is beginning to be clear that there is massive corruption under this government. So the only thing left for the president is to put former appointees, trump up charges against them to court, so that the mantra of corruption, as it canvassed on the political platform, will be given judicial endorsements. So that having succeeded in getting judicial endorsement or whatever, you will now say, but I told you that these people are corrupt. Have you seen that they have been convicted? My brother, before me are the charges that have been filed so far. And I will just be with your permission. For instance, count 1, abetment of crime, defrauding by false pretenses, contrary to sections 21 and 131 of Act 29. My brother, at least my practice of the law has not been that long, but I have a fair understanding of what the law of defrauding by false pretenses mean. That much I am aware. Look, in order that it does not appear that we are just saying, look, in the case of Daniel Abodakwe Republic, criminal appeal number H2607, this is what the Court of Appeal said. The essential ingredients of the offense that had to be proved. 1, that the accused person made a representation of the existence of a state of facts. That the representation was made either in writing or spoken words. That the representation was made with the knowledge, very important, with the knowledge that it was false, and it was made without the belief that it was true. That the representation was made with the intent to defraud, very important, with the intent to defraud. That the representation was made by the accused person, and that representation will obtain the consent of another to part with something. That is what you need to establish. My brother, what is Dr. Opuni alleged to have been done? Per the facts and the particulars of offense and the count. It's an abetment of crime, namely defrauding by false pretenses. My brother, Dr. Opuni was appointed by President John Dramani Mahama somewhere November 2013. Is that not the case? Okay. I have with me here a letter written by Cocoa Research Institute of Ghana, a division of Cocoa Board. Internal mail, Office of Executive Director, dated 25th July 2013. 2013. Yeah. Before Dr. Opuni was what? Appointed in November 2013. I read Chief Executive, and then written by who? Chief Executive Officer, Agricult Company Limited. And it provides. And this letter was written by Dr. F.M. Amwa, Executive Director, Cocoa Research Institute of Ghana. As you can see. It reads, we submit here with a bill of 24,000 Ghana cedis for testing of your product, Litovit, on cocoa for 2013-2014 season. Please arrange to effect payment. So clearly, the process even for the testing of these chemicals started when? July 2013. Even before Dr. Opuni became the Executive Director or CEO of Cocoa Board. Is that not the case? So how could he have abetted the defrauding by false pretenses of a matter that started way before he became the Chief Executive Officer? Now, what is it that they are alleged to have done? And first of all, like I read the law, it says when you are charged, the state must prove that your representation is in respect of your intention to what? To defraud. Is that not the case? A man who wants to defraud the state, assuming Alhaji said wants to defraud the state using agriculture, he has taken his products to the institution mandated under Cocoa Board to test his product. a man who wants to defraud the state, would he take any step to have his product, first of all, even tested? 2, the Republic is not even alleging that the products were not delivered. Curious. The Republic is not saying that on this day you entered into a contract to supply 2,000 bags of so and so of fertilizer. You did not supply it, meanwhile you took the money. The Republic is not saying so, and I'll demonstrate to you why the Republic cannot say so. See, this is a report prepared by the Cocoa Health Extension Division, Cocoa Board. With the greatest respect, this was prepared by them. Report on field visit to the region, April 2015, and it covers 2013-2014. See, field visit by management staffs to cocoa regions and cocoa districts, and these were done involving executive director, deputy executive director, technical managers, technical officers, and the regions were Brona-Ahafo, Eastern, Central, Volta, Western South, and Ashanti regions. What did they go to do? It is stated here, objective: engage field on the efficient and effective application of foliar fertilizer, Litovate, and Sidalco. The subject matter of this criminal prosecution is the Litovate. So, quite clearly, how could they be going on the field to investigate the efficiency of something that was never supplied? Quite clearly, per their own report, it means that the thing was supplied. And I'll go forward. Observations and recommendations. This is what, or after their own, and you can see pictures of them on their field, so that it doesn't look like somebody had concocted anything. Recommendations. On the basis of the field visits and the observations made thereof, the following recommendations are made for management favorable consideration. Quote, additional foliar fertilizer, especially Litovate, which farmers have shown preference for, could be purchased to augment the 700,000 liters purchased to ensure all bearing young cocoa farms are fertilized so that the country could maximize its cocoa output. So per the report itself, and this report was not prepared by the director of Yoko. It was prepared by the Cocoa Health Extension Division of Cocoa Board, made up of technical people, not politicians. In this report, it is stated clearly that 700,000 liters were purchased and that they want additional ones. Now, in the midst of all these reports, you go to court and say you are charging them for causing financial loss to the state. Now, first of all, how did you even arrive at this conclusion that a loss has been occasioned? You started your investigation in respect of this Cocoa Board matter somewhere February 2017. Now, cocoa supplied in 2013, 2014, 2015. Fertilizer supplied 3 years ahead of the time of your investigation. How did you come to the conclusion when those fertilizers had been utilized even before you started your investigation? So when we say that this prosecution is witch hunting, that is it. And I'll demonstrate to you again. There are another serious basis of this witch hunting thing. Do you know that somewhere in July 2017, the executive director of the Yoko took samples of fertilizer supplied in 2016. Do you know where he took the sample to? Ghana Standards Authority. Who takes fertilizer to Standards Authority for testing? Who does that? Cocoa Board has its own research called CREG in Tafo. And that institution has been there even before independence. Nanado's own hometown. It is made up of soil scientists. And you see, because it's cocoa, those fertilizers and chemicals, they are tested for a long time, either to ensure high yield, a whole lot of issues. So they are not the normal chemicals you go to standard authority for testing, because this one, it goes through certain processes before they come out. Soil scientists will do all their permutations and all those things. Now you take the fertilizer to Ghana Standards Authority for testing, and you know these are granular and what do you call it? What you call foliar fertilizer. So you shake it because it's in liquid form. You shake it. Nothing of those sorts was done. So the report shows not detected. And you know the portion where they took the whole thing to, where they test hazardous chemicals. That's obviously not where you test for fertilizer. So when they went there and you go to the attention of the supplier that no, in doing such a test, you need an independent witness. None of those things were done, just because somebody wants to ensure that he gets problem with Dr. Opuni. Who does this in this republic? The Attorney General's power under Article 88 is not to persecute. To the extent that even where there is no evidence of wrongdoing, you want to do everything to ensure that you get some wrongdoing against the individual. So you know what happened? The supplier, Agricult, protested. That is not how you do your testing. So finally they had to go and do the test again. When the test was done, you see, identification, the sample is a fertilizer.
Yeah.
Have you seen it? This time around, when he protested and they had to go and do the test again. Now, when they saw that now their mischief has been exposed, and this report is prepared by Fiona Jemfi, Standards Officer, July 26, 2017, under Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. So nobody is denying the fact that the fertilizers were in fact what? Supplied. So where is the question of causing financial loss? Where is the question of defrauding by false pretenses? And you will see. First of all, what do you see here? Certification. This is to certify that the Cocoa Research Institute of Ghana tested and recommended to Cocoa Board, Ghana Cocoa Board, Agricult Litovit. Have you seen it? And this is signed by Dr. Enim Kwapon, Executive Director. This is it. Beyond this, my brother, have a look at this. Certificate. Cocoa Research Institute of Ghana. Tested and recommended to Ghana Cocoa Board. Agricult. Certificate is valid until 2015. So in 2015 it was done. 2016 it was done. What do you have here? Cocoa Research Institute tested and recommended to the Cocoa Board Litovit foliar fertilizer. 14. So my brother, if you put all of these things together, where do you establish the basis? And in fact, you'll be shocked that in order to comply with the initial letter, the July 1, payment was done because it was made to pay 20-something thousand for the testing. And this is the payment in respect of that. Now look at the charge the Republic itself decided to prefer against the accused persons. And this one, I want to beg our respected Attorney General that you see, today, the junior brother is the DCE for Dangbe West, the Shah Osudoku district. He is a public officer. He will be entering into agreements, and all these agreements will be approved by the assembly, but he will ultimately sign it, or the coordinating director. Should another government come in and say that even when the board has given approval for the purchase of fertilizer, you want to hold the CEO responsible and punish him because you claim you are fighting corruption. Who does this in any democracy? Look, Sami Eshan, so that it doesn't look like, oh, we just sat here and then just raising matters. Look, funny. You claim that the person has defrauded the Republic together with Dr. Puli. You are not in any respect saying that the fertilizers were never delivered. You are not. Two, you do know, if you go to Sidako, Agricult, Winco, and all those companies, none of them manufacture fertilizer in Ghana. All they do is to repackage it. That is what they do, is to repackage the products. Nothing more, nothing else. The manufacturing countries are sometimes the Germany or what have you. So what they do is to bring it and then work it to the specification as demanded by Cocoa Board. Now what is your basis? That, oh, you said I should buy you a car, another car I could buy it from Germany. But I bought the car from Dubai, brought it to you. You've used the car and even destroyed the car. You've even used it and destroyed it. Now you say no, because I said Germany and it came from Dubai, even though I've accepted and used the car, I've defrauded you. Who does this? Two, when as we speak, you have shared the fertilizer to cocoa farmers. They have used it, gotten yield. The Republic has gotten money from it. So where is the loss? And you see, Justice Desen Kwame Afre made a very important pronouncement in the Quality Grade case. I'll just read a portion. He said, for the prosecution to succeed, it must show that the state incurred a financial loss through the action or omission of the accused person. Fertilizer that was supplied, used, and there are recommendations that Ghanaians, even farmers, want it more. This was prepared by Cocoa Health Extension Division. Recommendation. In fact, they are recommending that the 700,000 was not enough, and so Ghanaians like it. Farmers want the little bit, so it should be supplied more. Then you come and say they have caused financial loss to the state. You come and say they have defrauded the state. If this is not a classic case of witch hunting, with the greatest respect to the learned attorney general, what more is this? What more is this? Look, if you ask Dr. Puni, he doesn't even know me. I don't know him from Adam. Alhaji Sedu, I've never even smelled him, whether remotely or whatever. I don't know him from Adam. But the fact is fact. You put it where it is. Because you see, it can happen to me. It can happen to anybody. The power of the Attorney General under Article 88 is not to persecute. It is for prosecution. They are two different things. Look, to the extent that Yoko will be forcing state institutions to get certain outcomes, to tell you the state what the state is willing to do. And you know why? You see, immediately when the MPP came to power, less than 50 or less than 30 days, Opuni was handed this letter to vacate, and that was where his trouble started. Do you know that around that time the mom, I think he had lost the mom. Yeah. They went to the extent of going to his hometown in Doma, because according to some, he has so much money that he had dark places and hidden the money. Ransacked the dead mother's house, took his mobile phones, did everything. His house in Accra, everywhere. They found nothing. Look, Dr. Puni was made to appear before 7 committees at Yoko. 7. By the time he is done with this, another one. By the time, they found nothing. If you recall, Hakman Owusu-Agyemang, the board chairman of Cocoa Board now, came out and said $400 million of Cocoa Board funds were missing. You remember? Mm-hmm. You recall that? Yeah. And sometimes when I hear elders like this speak, I think $400 million is not like 1 Ghana cedi. To move $400 million from an account or anything to another place is no joke. Do you know, if you put it back into Ghana cedi, that's about 1.2 billion Ghana cedis. How do you move such an amount of money? But we were told it was missing. So and you recall the famous inflated cocoa roads. What has become of that? So all you have to do is to now trump up these charges. For what effect? For the sole political effect. And today let me use the words of a senior journalist, Kwekubako, to masturbate your followers that, oh, you are the one fighting corruption in this republic. I think we all fairly know what the law on causing financial loss, what the law on defrauding by false pretenses, and what all those laws mean in our criminal jurisprudence. Fairly established. But the most ridiculous. Dr. Puni were told by the same, the current chief executive, he has a name, Wahi, and the same Hakman Owusu-Agyemang. The salary of Dr. Puni was so much and that they wanted to reduce it. A man you claim whose salary was about 60-something thousand. Today you are charging him ridiculously that he accepted a bribe of 25,000 in order to award a contract worth 75 million Ghana cedis. You see, when they have nothing against you, they just want to disgrace you. That is what the Nanado administration has turned into. Destroy your political opponent for whatever it is worth. Just destroy them. Just destroy them. Look at Daily Guide front page. Look at it. And the Attorney General herself is the one leading the charge. To what end? Madam Gloria Kufi, with the greatest respect, I admire her so much. To what end? To what end shall we continue with this? Look, what Ghanaians want, and today when I heard the Guta people, what they want really is for better conditions, the betterment of their life. Look, look, let me explain something so that people know that we are not just here to just spew anything. Look, one of the ridiculous charges was that Dr. Puni and Cocoa Board went to the Public Procurement Authority. So they actually went there and obtained the approval of PPA. And you know the ridiculous charge? That when they went there, the representation that was given to PPA was a misrepresentation. But you see, it is worrying because PPA is made up of technical people. When Nanado's ministers presented very incompetent and fraudulent sourcing contracts to PPA, they were rejected. What it means is that the PPA has the right to reject or approve of same. Now PPA has approved, given approval for the purchase to be done. After several years, you now come and say PPA's consent or approval was obtained fraudulently. So those technical people, who is it, Salas Mensa or PPA, or the then board chair of PPA, who is telling you that their consent to give approval for the transaction was obtained fraudulently? And do you know the other shocking thing? They are now forcing, intimidating middle level staffs of COCOBOD to come and testify against the accused persons. And that is the only way they will also not be charged with them. Who does this in any democracy? To what end? So that even when the person has not done anything, and you see, I tell people, my friend he said, look, if you don't know Dr. Puni, because he's a medical doctor, he likes procedure. Oh yes, the person told me. He said, you have no idea that guy. He will use the procedure. So you go to the board for approval. You will make sure everything you are doing is in line before you even attempt to pen his signature. And you know what? COCOBOD has a lot of technical people out there. All this thing is done so that out there, MPP communicators will be saying, oh, say I can, say Nana can, so Oba, Abe fight take it and then so that they will take the matters to court and keep the matters there and destroy your reputation. Destroy your reputation. A man you claim whose salary was about 65,000, now you have taken him to court that he accepted a bribe of 25,000 Ghana. It's not dollars, so 25,000 Ghana cedis to award a contract worth 75 million Ghana cedis. How in God's name can you be this unfair to your fellow man? Look, Ghana belongs to all of us. Ghana belongs to all of us. And the MPP must know. Look, as for power, it changes from one end to another. And my worry is that the current president of the Republic of Ghana, I have never seen any president who has involved family members so much in his administration than Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Ex-girlfriend, mummies, baby mummies, and what have you. All of them are in his government. And this is a man who ought to tread cautiously. Because if you want to put somebody's child in prison because you think you have power, when power changes, remember that foolishness does not lie in the heart of only one man. All other people can use state power for whatever end they want. My point is this. If we want to move this country on this trajectory, this slippery slope of ensuring that at all costs we will persecute somebody just because of politics, the danger is that we are destroying this beautiful country that several years ago many of our compatriots toiled with their blood for them. All right. Look, just give me some few minutes. I'll round up. I beg you, so that I will just round up. In fact, on the law on causing financial loss to the state, Justice Alfred says something very important. He said, when a person is charged with this offense, you must demonstrate that the person foresaw the consequence of his action and took unjustifiable risk of it, and as a result a loss has been occasioned to the Republic of Ghana. My brother, with the greatest respect, a man who will go to the board for approval, the board will go to PPA for approval. All these things are being done by technical people to ensure that the right thing is done. Is this a man who is taking unjustifiable risk of the consequence of his action? I think we fairly know how these laws operate. This witch hunting, the president should concede honorably. But you see, on this fight against corruption, I want to read a mail so that, having done that, you can take me off. Okay. It's a very important mail. And this is a legal opinion. Maybe after this, I will forward it to you. If you recall, in opposition, one of the key issues, campaign promise or campaign issue for the MPP, was the Ameri transaction. This same fight against corruption. so that it doesn't look like I'm veering off the topic. Then opposition MPP said the contract was what? Inflated, tainted with corruption and what have you. So when MPP came to power, the Minister of Energy, Boakye Ejiakon, wrote suspending payment to Ameri. Can you imagine? Even when he suspended payment to Ameri, Ameri continued to produce power for the people of Ghana. They didn't want to do anything, so they continued with the production of power. Now, having taken that reckless decision of suspending payments, and the payment suspended, he now writes to the Attorney General for her legal opinion as to whether what he has done is right or wrong. And so the Attorney General wrote a legal opinion on the lawfulness of that suspension. Let me just read portions of it so that the rest I can give you. Consequence of suspending of payment. Listen. In the absence of any defaults or breaches of any of the obligations on the part of Ameri, as specified in the agreement, Government of Ghana is obligated to make payments on Ameri on monthly basis under Section 10 of the agreement. Non-fulfillment of GOG payment therefore would entitle Ameri to draw down on the standby letter of credit amounting to $50 million. So the AG herself is now conceding that the decision taken by the energy minister was improper because there was no default. Additionally, government will be in default under sections 23 AI of the BOOT agreement if monthly payments to Ameri are suspended. The payments had been suspended already. So what it means today is that the government under Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo administration had breached the Ameri agreement because the minister went ahead, decided to abrogate the contract without any legal opinion from the Attorney General, and by so doing had committed government of Ghana serious financial losses. Because right now, if Ameri draws down on the letters of credit, it becomes additional cost to government of Ghana. Now listen to the same Attorney General. Now, this is what Ameri can do. Ameri may terminate the agreement and BOG will have to return all the Ameri equipment because they have done their work. You have decided to breach it. So they are entitled to take all the equipment back to a different country. Do you know what that reckless decision of that energy minister will cost Ghana? Now finally, recommendations. See the Attorney General herself. Now what she is saying. He said it is alleged that the agreement is unconscionable. We are of the view that the notion of an unconscionable agreement against the interests of Ghana is not maintainable. The Attorney General of the Republic of Ghana is now saying that the claim by the MPP that the Ameri agreement is unconscionable cannot be maintained. This is it, 9-page legal opinion written by the Attorney General and it's signed by her so that nobody will say Gloria Efua Akufu written. And this agreement is dated 27th November 2017. So this whole business about fighting corruption, they are different between what you say on political platform and the reality. Now the reality is what the Attorney General has expressed in her legal opinion, to the extent that she even says if government of Ghana is not careful and it proposes to terminate the Ameri transaction now, in the absence of any power, it means that we'll be going back to do so. So the Attorney General herself is expressing fears that if you terminate the Ameri transaction, Ghana will be back into doom so. I'll forward it to you so that on Monday you can take your time and go through it. This is the state of affairs. So let us all know, yes, me, like President Mahama has said, he said corruption is like mass murder. Nobody wants any form of corruption. But in the time when under Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, 5 million of taxpayers' money will be given to the MPP for their national conference in Cape Coast. Nonando should be the last person to be talking about fighting corruption. Look, the Deputy General of MPP, a lawyer, he became a lawyer before I was born. He became a lawyer in 1982. Even before I was born. So at the time when he told whoever it is that he was having a conversation with, that the Flagstaff House gave the MPP 5 million Ghana cedis of taxpayers' money as part of the allocation to the presidency for MPP internal conference. This man should be the last person to talk about fighting corruption.
All right. Thank you very much, Lawyer Godwin Edoji, for the expose this morning here on your power station, Radio Gold 90.5. Alhaji and Alhaji is the program you are listening to. My name is Samir Shen, and for the benefit of those of you who join us late, we do have just about some 5 minutes before it's 10 o'clock. The issues we are looking at, one, the first one you heard Lawyer Godwin Edoji Tamaklu speak about has to do with the fight against corruption in Ghana, as President Akufo-Addo kickstarts prosecution of past government appointees, and the view that it is just mere political witch hunt, and the view also expressed that this is purely procedure and the government is trying to fight corruption. Your views, your thoughts, very much welcome. You send them to me on Facebook and Twitter using the handle at @SamuelAsianGH. I'd like to hear them, so send them to me. Also streaming live on our Facebook walls, 2 of them, PAB MCGH, it's together PABMCGH on Facebook, and then also live on our web Facebook wall, Radio Gold 905 FM. You can monitor the entire feed live on Facebook as well. So I'll come straight to Comrade Murtala for his submissions on our first topic, which has to do with the fight against corruption and the prosecution of Dr. Stephen Opuni. Comrade.
Okay. Good morning, Ishen. Well, last week, or the subject of I said Ishon, so that's I don't think I would want to add it. And let me also say good morning to my senior comrade Kwesi Pratt, and my brother. At least I also have 2 kid brothers here. I think, but for Comrade Kwesi Pratt, I'm also the biggest here. And Eddie, you said you were born in 1990.
Please.
1992.
Propaganda. Right here, you want to do propaganda.
I'm just asking a harmless. I'm just asking a harmless question. Anyway, but I believe that the listening public know too well what he said. Let me say that I just want to start from where my brother stopped. That it is not only Lawyer Obri Bwanhene who should not have the moral turpitude to talk about corruption, but His Excellency the President himself. I really don't think that President Nanado, with all due respect, has the moral turpitude. He only have that after his government has responded to direct accusation made on his person by Manasseh in his folder. Manasseh wrote, among others, that the President was an accomplice in the thievery at Bost. He went ahead to say that the President, per the information he got from people close to the President, indicated and concluded that the President took particular interest, the extent to which His Excellency the President reprimanded the Minister for Energy for even attempting to set up a committee to investigate the thievery at Bost. Some may doubt what Manasseh says, and I have listened to people when I raise this say that yes, is the NDC now taking Manasseh's word as the absolute truth? Far from that. My only concern is that when such an allegation is made against His Excellency the President, I haven't heard anybody respond or read anywhere that His Excellency the President or his office or his numerous spokespersons or his ministers have responded to that serious allegation of corruption made against no less a person than His Excellency the President. So until such a time that this allegation made by Manasseh Azuri against the president is responded to, I really don't think that he himself would have the moral turpitude to comment about corruption and talk about corruption. Some of us can talk about corruption because we are not corrupt. So the president cannot, neither his numerous and needless 110 ministers who are now building houses left, right and center, and deputy ministers can speak to this. But Sean, I think my this morning discussion is going to center on 2 or 3 things, and most especially on the NDC.
Okay.
I was just reading what I stand to be corrected. Perhaps senior comrade and prof who has just joined us would correct me the name, because it's a German name, Martin. Is it Nidvula? Is it Nidvula? When they write, who made the statement that he was a Protestant. I mean, who was a serious critic of Adolf Hitler, and he said
Muller.
that yes, it's Muller, Niv Muller. Is it Martin Niv Muller? That they came for the socialist, and I did not speak out because I wasn't a socialist. They came for the trade unionist. I didn't speak out because I wasn't a trade unionist. They came for the Jews. I didn't speak out because I wasn't a Jew. And then when they came for me, there was no one left to speak for me. This is a lesson that all of us in NDC must begin learning from now. I say this because I have monitored with profound dismay and profound coyness the kind of comments certain NDC people have made about Dr. Upuni, and for which reason they came to a conclusion that we should allow Dr. Upuni to dry. I have read, and it hurts me so much. Perhaps those people who are making those comments, and some of them very responsible individuals as far as the NDC and the previous government was concerned, may not be able to stand the test that Dr. Upuni and many people may stand. And I'm saying this because it is not about Dr. Upuni. It is about the NDC. Let's get this very, very clearly. What this government is doing is not about a person, and that is why I quoted those statements made by Martin Muller. That you may think that today it is against somebody and therefore allow the person to dry. You know what the MPP does through the jackals in the media is to find the easy and the softest target to pick. It's just like when the lions are run after their prey. If you observe the animal world, you can observe it on TV. When they are together, they can't catch one. They will run after them until one is separated, isolated, and they would pounce on the one that is isolated, devour that one, and then they come at you again. And they do this using section of the media which I describe as the jackal. Sean, some months back, I said it here, that the sad thing about the NDC is that when a journalist pick a phone and call an NDC member and says the knives are out for you, the NDC member will not even have the patience to ask whose knives. He will start attacking. What the MPP does is that when a journalist picks a phone and calls an MPP member, the knives are out for you, he will first and foremost ask whose knives. If they are MPP knives, he won't comment. But if there are NDC knives, that is where they will galvanize forces together and pounce on the person. Yet we are supposed to be a social democratic political party, and we don't even appreciate the principles that governs the ideological position of social democracy: togetherness and thick and thin. That at any point in time, the social democrat is not just looking, in fact there is no I in the ideological position of social democracy. It is always we, and I believe that Prof and Senior Comrade Kwesi Pratt would give us a lot of lectures on this. It is about we, it is not about I. Sadly, in a political party that ascribed to be a social democratic party, we have lost elections and suddenly it is about I and they, and at any point in time any of them is under attack, allow the person to rot. Look, Ishon, to be very honest with you, I have served on the board of Cocoa Board as the rep of Ministry of Trade. Of course, not from 2013 or 2014, but at least the few months that I served on the board, And I'll say that Dr. Puni might have indeed got the ox of many people in NDC. But to confirm what Eduje said, one thing that I observed as a member sitting on the board, that the gentleman is absolutely meticulous. In fact, the extent to which there were certain things he brought to the board, and we wondered why he could bring such things to the board when those decisions could be taken by management. Do you know Dr. Puni never signed a single check at Cocoa Board? A single check. One check at Cocoa Board. Never. Dr. Puni has never given me anything. Nothing. And people can find out from him. But we need to be very truthful. I have listened to people. Oh, the gentleman had his human relation wasn't good. Tell me the entire NDC who didn't have problems with people, including the President Mama himself. Almost everybody, in the discharge of your duties and responsibilities, you certainly would have issues with people. And that is why Machiavelli says that the leader should combine the ferocity of a lion and the cunning of a fox to achieve your objective. You can't listen to everybody and take whatever everybody says. At some point in time, you need to take unpopular principal position, and those principal positions will vindicate you in the shortest possible time. So he may have problems with certain individuals, but at least he didn't also have problems with a lot of people. And I think that we need to get this very, very clearly. So if today you think that it's about Dr. Puni and therefore allow him, you are putting poison in your own chalice. You remember that before the elections, a lot of comments were made on radio. A lot of preposterous allegations were made against the person Dr. Puni. The NPP is hinging on those preposterous and verifiable allegations, and for which reason they are blindly, and their blindness is occasioned by anger and hate they had for the man, not as at the time he was appointed as the CEO of Cocoa Board, but at a time when he sacrificed his professional work in the defense of the cause of the NDC in Kumasi at Komfo Anokye. At the time when the NDC, even at Komfo Anokye, was unpopular. That is the heartbeat of the NPP. Yet this man sacrificed that. Do you know they attempted his life once when he was not even appointee? He was a doctor at Komfo Anokye, just because he was there serving the interests, or allegedly serving the interests, of the NDC. Today, people have suddenly forgotten all the sacrifices he made. Now, the question then is, if I also make sacrifices today, and I'm in trouble one day, will the NDC come to my aid? The earlier we learn this, the better. That these people are attacking us to devour, and they're attacking us like the lions attacking its prey, running after us to ensure that one is isolated. And the moment that one is isolated, they pounce on it and shear the booty and then pick another one. Some of us have nothing to fear. Let me make it very clear to our comrades who are listening, absolutely nothing to fear. But we think that if you want to prosecute anybody, prosecute the person on principles, facts, and sincerity. You don't do that because you hate the person. President Nanado was elected on the 7th of December. He was sworn in on the 7th of January. By 13th of January, the gentleman who wrote the plagiarized speech at the Flagstaff House, Asante Bediatu, had written to Dr. Opuni asking him to vacate, leave Cocoa Board. 7th to 13th of January, had written to him. Now, when Dr. Opuni, you remember the press conference that was held, and that Dr. Opuni was the current chief executive, who said that Dr. Opuni had squandered $400 million, isn't it? $400 million of Cocoa Board. Suddenly, the $400 million has been reduced to $25,000. Now, if it hasn't been reduced to $25,000, why would you leave $400 million and you are hanging on $25,000 allegedly taken as a bribe to award a contract? Now, does it even make sense that someone will leave $400 million that has no longer found any space in the charges and allegations made against the gentleman? They are now hinging on 25,000 Ghana cedis. Again, we were being told that Dr. Opuni was receiving a hefty amount of money as salary. Let's find out from the current CEO of Cocoa Board and the board chair of Cocoa Board, have they reversed the amount of money that Dr. Opuni was receiving, for which reason they went to town with? Have they done that? You remember when the Senate issue came up, and Joy FM and the multimedia peddled those absolute falsehood against Senate, just to lump in all those who have served in Senate, including that respectful Professor Joshua Alabi. Remember that who was then the board chair and all the members, when they lumped all of them together, and even indicated that they went into a contract of $66 million. Now they failed to tell us how the $66 million increased to $72 million. At what point in time was the $72 million paid? And they gave the current chief executive of Senate, who came and spewed out all those preposterous allegations. What has come to that? I remember at that time, there were people in NDC, except those who didn't monitor social media and NDC platforms, who said that they should allow those people to rot. Well, at a time when there wasn't an iota of evidence against those people, whether Professor Alabi or those who managed Senate at that time, of those allegations, within NDC there were people who said allow them to rot. You see, I know that these people have the courage to do the kinds of things they are doing, because there are still hypocrites within NDC. Hypocrites who had problems with certain individuals, and when we're in government, they were given, baseless allegations and stories to them. And there are still some of them whose stomachs cannot blow air. They think that the NDC is in opposition, they need something to chop, they must go to the MPP with these absolute lies, and they are hinging on those lies to prosecute people. You go to court to prosecute people with evidence supported by law. You don't prosecute people with perceptions, you don't prosecute people with emotions, and you don't prosecute people with preposterous stories that are given to you by very people who cannot even stand the test of incorruptibility. And I think it's very, very important we take note of some of these things. Now, let me make this point. You have a private businessman. Is it agriculture? A private businessman, my understanding is that he has employed a lot of young people, ranging to thousands, of all his businesses in this country. Now, his company is not the only company that supplied fertilizer to cocoa farmers in this country through Cocoa Board. Many other companies did that. The processes through which the certification and everything was done, and I don't want to get into some of the things ADG had already raised, are the same process that are being used. And for the information of the listening public, this government has also awarded same contracts to companies to provide fertilizer for farmers. Those companies they have awarded the same contract to, the processes that were used to award the contract to agriculture, and the processes that were used by agencies and divisions of Cocoa Board to certify that the fertilizer was a quality fertilizer and it was good for farmers, are the same processes that are being used by this government to award the new contract for the supply of fertilizers for farmers this year. And at no point in time, when these fertilizers were supplied for farmers to use, at no point in time did we hear a single farmer anywhere in this country raise a finger about the quality of the fertilizer that was supplied by agriculture. At no point in time. Now, if you understand how Cocoa Board operates, I served on the board. We have about 2 chiefs representing farmers, two farmers representing cocoa farmers on the board. You have the chairman, is it the chief of all cocoa farmers, represented on the board. And at any point in time, they echoes the concerns of their farmers. At no point in time, as a matter of fact, if you check in the records, they always said that particular fertilizer and the fertilizers supplied by Cocoa Board were fertilizers that were outstanding. The extent to which I expect journalists in this country to go and look at the records of cocoa production within the period that is in contention. Between 2013, 14, 15, 16, what has been the outcome of the fertilizer that was supplied by this company used by farmers? Now, if farmers at no point in time, and you can't tell me this one was so coordinated and masterminded, that in all the 6 regions that cocoa is produced in this, the 5 regions that in fact 6, in all the 6 regions that cocoa is produced in this country, not a single farmer raised a finger about the quality of the fertilizers or chemicals that were supplied. Not a single one of them. Now, how miraculous could that company and Opuni did this? How miraculous? Now, if they never raised, and it didn't just happen in the year 2-3 years that they didn't raise a single finger, suddenly the fertilizer and chemicals that were supplied by this particular company have turned out to be adulterated. They have turned out to be fertilizer that ought not have been supplied. Now, you can only say that if there is evidence that the fertilizer that was supplied or chemical supplied by this company, farmers complained that yes, this thing was affecting the trees, affecting their cocoa production, then you can say that the cocoa board management at that time refused to heed to the concerns of these farmers. Nothing, not a shred of any evidence that even resembles that. Yet you want to lynch on. And what they are doing to this private businessman is killing his businesses. Because I can imagine what his partners, perhaps those in Ghana and outside, will be feeling, because every single information that is put out there is read globally. I can imagine, is this not wickedness? The same government that claims that we are going to develop this country beyond aid, and that we have to generate and produce the things we need in this country, and that yes, he is continuing with the made in Ghana goods that the NDC indeed started, that they are going to continue it, and that the president suddenly now has found luxury in wearing made in Ghana all the time, which is commendable. And suddenly you have domestic businesses, domestic private businesses who have done businesses long before both NDC and MPP, long before we started this 4th Republican Constitution. You don't realize that this is the greatest wickedness that can be perpetrated against a private business person to destroy his business. They care less about the thousands of people who are recruited to work under this man's business. Now, even his businesses that have got nothing to do with this cocoa, if I'm a partner in that business, I will begin asking questions. If I do business with this man in a different field and I see this report, I will begin asking myself questions. Is it that they just hate him? Is it that they just want to destroy his business? Is it that they don't care if the man's businesses collapse and the people, the hundreds if not thousands of people he has employed, are jobless? They simply do not care. If this is not heartless, then I would be glad to know what can constitute heartless under these circumstances. Sean, let me also provide you with another evidence that if you look at Greg, and I remember that CRIG, which is Cocoa Research Institute of Ghana, you cannot doubt the capability, the technical competency of those working there. And by the way, a lot of them were there long before the NDC came into office. As a matter of fact, a lot of them were recruited under President Kufuor's administration. These are people who have the technical competency to do the kind of work they do, that if you want to have anything purchased by Cocoa Board, it ought to be tested. Testing chemicals and fertilizers to be used for cocoa is not the work of Ghana Standard Authority. Ghana Standard Authority was under the Ministry of Trade, in a ministry in which I serve as a deputy minister. As a matter of fact, they don't even have the capacity to do that. The extent to which these people have all testified and all the documentary evidence is submitted, at no point in time did they raise an issue with this particular chemical provided for Cocoa Board, or provided or supplied to be used by Cocoa Board by Agriculture. So why has that become suddenly an issue? There is an explanation. Now, this man had a certificate awarded to him By the way, I mean, it's been completely shredded. If you listen to the MPP incompetent communicators, they said that, oh, he awarded the contract to his friends. As a matter of fact, the man started the processes of wanting to do this business with Cocoa Board before Opuni, and that there isn't any evidence that Opuni even knew that gentleman, the owner of that company, before Opuni came, was appointed to Cocoa Board. And at no point in time, at that time, Opuni was at Food and Drugs Authority. Is that not it? He was not appointed to head Cocoa Board. Now, this thing started long before Opuni came. This man, they certified and gave him a certificate to supply. 2013. His certificate was renewed in 2014. The certificate was renewed in 2015. And having sat on the board, I am telling you, I have had instances where Cocoa Board and some of the divisions had problems with certain people based on the kinds of things they supplied to Cocoa Board that did not meet standard, that their contracts were abrogated because they didn't meet standard. Because it's one area that you cannot compromise. Now, at no point in time did anybody raise any issue about this particular fertilizer. 2015, the certificate was issued. Do you know the challenge? This man supplied again the same fertilizer in 2016 before elections. But the contract he had with Cocoa Board, not individuals. Cocoa Board is a state institution. He had contact with them. The fertilizers were brought in 2017. This government said they were not going to take the fertilizer and that they were not going to pay for it. As I talk to you, that's the genesis.
So to force him,
and you know why? The understanding some of us had was that they were willing for him to lie upon Opuni.
He refused.
He can't do that. That means he's a businessman. Now this man went to court. He took Cocoa Board to court. I have a valid contract with Cocoa Board. I supplied this because of the contract that I have had with Cocoa Board. The current management and government says the Minister for Agriculture, they are not going to take it. That in itself is a breach of contract. Now they have agreed to go through arbitration. They have agreed. Cocoa Board and Co. they've all agreed to go through arbitration. Now, in order to force this man, then you suddenly come out with some of these stories. Now tell me, on what basis did they come to the kind of conclusion? Look, there's another story. That yes, the fertilizer was produced in Ghana. I'm wondering to see any fertilizer that is produced in Ghana. Let me tell you. Now, assuming, because I am not aware of this, I'm yet to find out, assuming that he brought the fertilizer and finished the processing in Ghana, wouldn't that be good for a responsible and sensible government? That it will be an opportunity for jobs to be created, at least for some few Ghanaians who otherwise would have been unemployed if this thing was not done in Ghana. Because if the man brings it in here to finish the processing in Ghana, he certainly wouldn't be doing it alone. He would have recruited people to do it.
In fact, that is what has happened.
And all the fertilizers that we have, the liquid fertilizer, they brought them in the mix. In fact, even after the concentration, if they give them to farmers for them to spray on the trees, they will mix water. They will pour it on water for it to be expanded. That is what happens.
Even the farmers.
That's what the farmers do. That is what the farmers do. So even if he makes the concentration here, and then give it out to the farmers will also have to add water to be able to spray. That is what happens. Because if you use that one, it will kill even the trees. That is what happens. Now, assuming that he gets it in the solid form, brings it here, and then do the mixing here, and that has now become, he produced the fertilizer in Ghana. Wouldn't that even be wonderful if you have a company that can produce the fertilizer in Ghana?
Better than one district.
One factory. Wouldn't that? That if you have a company that can produce the fertilizer in Ghana, so now it has become even a crime that you have a company that can produce fertilizer in Ghana, I'll be happy to see that. That we don't need to spend that much money. Can you imagine the number of people who would have been recruited even if he's able to produce the fertilizer in Ghana? But Sean, they didn't even stop that. You remember, after they said that Dr. Opuni has squandered $400 million, do you know when they said that? When we began asking them, you remember when the NDC had the press conference? After they unquestioned, because Cocoa Board went in for a syndicated loan of $1.8 billion, and Cocoa Board has been going for that loan since 1993 and has never faltered in payment. Now the syndicated loan of $1.8 billion, Cocoa Board collateralized 750,000 metric tons of cocoa to take care of that loan. As a result of these chemicals brought in by agriculture, we were able to increase the production of cocoa to 900 969 metric tons per this government also captured this in the 2017 budget. It was stated by the Minister of Finance in the 2017 and both 2018 budget. Now, if you collateralize 750,000 to pay a loan of 1.8 billion, it means that we're able to pay, and we had an addition of 218,000 metric tons. At a time when cocoa was sold $1,900 per ton. If you do the calculation, you are going to have about over $400 million. Now, the $400 million, it means that Cocoa Board made profit. And this profit was not a fluke. It was so real, the extent to which the current Minister of Finance reported that in Parliament. And that profit that was made, we wondered why the fertilizers that were left, instead of the government continuing with what the NDC government did by giving out the fertilizer to the farmers, fertilizer embossed on it boldly, not for sale. This government criminally was selling the fertilizers to farmers. And when we asked them, they said that they were selling the fertilizer to pay the debt, that is the 1.8 billion, as if Ghanaians were a bunch of idiots. Now, when we pointed out to them that you have produced 969,000 and it was only 750,000 metric tons that was collateralized to pay the 1.8 billion, you would have a profit of about 218,000. Multiply that by $1,900 and that will give you $400,100,000. Now we ask where that money is and what they have used that money for. Have you heard them talk about it again? Yet continuously they sell the fertilizer to farmers. Even with their cut pants down and exposed, they are so hardened that they haven't stopped selling the fertilizer to farmers. Continuously they sell the fertilizers to farmers. And for me, that is extremely worrying. Again, the Minister of Finance came to Parliament and said that Cocoa Board awarded contracts beyond budgetary allocation. Remember that Cocoa Board awarded contract more than what was captured in the budget. And I said these guys are not only incompetent, they are completely dumb. Why? Cocoa Board awarded contracts, road contracts, and the road contracts, some of them were going to take like 5 years to complete, some 4, 3, 2 years. Now, if you have a total budget of those road contracts, which was a little over 6 billion. Now, 2016 budget, Cocoa Board indicated that they were going to spend 1.6 billion on the roads because you pay as and when the work is being done. So we raised a budget of 1.6 billion was raised, but the total cost expenditure of the contract were about a little over 6 billion. This incompetent minister and his incompetent government, with all their vaunting to be the paragons of knowledge, they simply couldn't understand this simple thing, that the 1.6 billion was meant for just 1 year, one financial year, and that as and when they do the work, every year you raise a budget to do what? To pay for the work that is being done. They went to Parliament and this thing was captured, that Cocoa Board awarded contracts more than their budget. And these things were all done to vilify Dr. Upuni, because there were some hypocrites in the NDC who felt that because they had problems with this gentleman, I had problems with him, I have argued with him even at the board, I have done that. But you ought to have those challenges, you ought to have those arguments. That makes us a democracy. They hinge on those things to vilify this man, and on that basis a prosecution is being done and the private businesses are being destroyed. And then they said that. Beyond that, they came out and said that, oh, the Cocoa Board had spent a lot of money in buying certain things. Let's find out from the current board chair, Mr. Hackman Owusu. What did he do at the board? He changed even the setting of the office. They spent a lot of money in the office that was occupied by the former boss. His vehicle, the vehicle that was given to him, he should tell us how much they spent extra in the interior. The board chairman should tell us. But you know what they shown? This government, and I said it here, and we haven't had a single convincing defense from government. I said on this program that the current Cocoa Board spent $10 million, not cedis. in a so-called investigation of the Dr. Opuni's administration, and they found nothing. They went to the Minister for Agri for extra money and he sacked them after he had already approved $10 million. They should tell us the auditing firm in Ghana, one auditing firm in Ghana which was paid almost $5 million, and another firm from Britain. What processes did they take in awarding those contracts? They should come out and deny this. What processes? Was it a sole sourcing? Why sole sourcing? How did they award the contract? They should find out the relationship of that auditing firm in Ghana, the relationship the firm and the leader of the firm has with the senior minister. They should tell us. You see, all these things boils down to the attitude of some of us in the NDC. And the earlier we all realize that this is not about individuals, it's about the NDC. Because they have lost the steam. The MPP has lost the momentum. In the front of the economy is a disaster. Corruption, in fact, corruption has become like a flute for the MPP. They use it, they play it, and they have beautiful music that they play with. They have realized that, look, there is an impending defeat, inshallah, in the 2020 elections. Inshallah, they will lose. They will lose because Ghanaians are disenchanted. They will lose because people are now paying more transportation fares. They will lose because utility fees have quadrupled. They will lose because there is no money. They will lose because they are best partners and friends who indeed contributed their money to support them at Obosokai. They are crying. They will lose because Guta is crying. They will lose because there is a complete disenchantment in the country. They will lose because the Fulani herdsmen who Samira went around and deceived and lied to are being killed. Their animals are killed. She can't go back and tell them another lie. They will lose because Dr. Baumia said that Ghana had money and that we don't need to borrow. When they have been gargantuanly exposed, they will lose because when they have demonstrated time without number, they are not only incompetent, but they are grossly incompetent. The extent to which corruption has become the mantra of this government, and they know that if elections inshallah were to be held today, they will lose. So what they are doing is that they want to frustrate us the more, and the only thing they can do that is to test our resolve to be together. And I believe that the MPP government was doing this conscious of the fact that there were people who came and lied to them about Dr. Opuni. Let's attack this man and see whether the NDC will sit aloof. I think they have gotten it wrong. And the earlier we stand together in fighting this injustice, the better for the democracy of this country.
Thank you very much.
30 seconds on this witch hunting bit. Do you know that they had to contract a UK company called Crow Discovery?
Yeah.
To come and do forensic examination of all the activities in Kokobot and pay them almost 10 million Ghana cedis.
Thank you very much.
In total,
let's follow the outline of the program and go like that. When we come back to our second issue, I'm sure I'll give you some time to elaborate a bit further on those issues as well. So we have done some 30 minutes into 10, and if you just join us, you're welcome to Alhaji and Alhaji, the mother of all talk shows. I'm moving straight to Professor Nino Iduna for his submission on the matter of the fight against corruption in Ghana and the prosecutions that have started. A case of witch hunt or simply just due process being followed to fight against corruption. Prof, good morning.
Thank you very much. The subject I would like to switch into my advocacy crusade, but still address the issues. I have before me on page 9 of today's edition, that is Saturday, March 17, 2018 of the Ghanaian Times. AG not witch hunting Opuni and others, Miss Gloria Kufu. And there is a particular paragraph. She said the state was prepared to prove that Dr. Opuni knew businessman Seydou Agongo and his Agricult Ghana Limited were in no position to supply the fertilizers and went ahead to sign the contracts. The submissions so far indicate, and of course sentiments are that the fight against corruption, beginning with the what do you call it, the prosecution of Dr. Opuni, the former chief executive of Cocoa Board, and others, is witch hunting. And I heard when I was coming the submission of a lawyer. He covered the technical areas, etc. I think the case is going to be heard when? 23rd, eh? Yes. Okay. So, on the face of it, you lawyers tell us that we all have our day in court. And I believe by the administration of justice, Dr. Opuni and his team, or co-defendants, will have their counsel. And it is about a matter of law. If you say there is an act of wrongdoing, then the wrongdoing will be against what cannot be done that is documented, either an enacted law in Parliament or whatever legislation that exists, or rules and regulations. So obviously, we will see what will transpire. There is a latent aspect of lawyer Edujita Maklo's submission, and I think Comrade Mutala also brought it out, that is it a sheer attempt to prove that the previous regime, some functionaries of the previous regime were corrupt, and so arbitrariness is setting in. The issues in court will prove that or otherwise, and the Attorney General is saying so. So I would not like to get too much into that. Obviously, if it is witch hunting, we will see, and if not, we will also see. Comrade, you knew Ghana at 50.
Yes.
I knew somebody, or I know somebody, who is not an NDC. Back in 2009, you know, when Mills won, they so rest in peace, he said, look, for nothing at all, somehow I was involved in execution of some of the projects, especially construction of pavilion at Independence Square. And in my little corner that I saw, if Professor Mills would not prosecute some functionaries of the Ghana at 50, this country, you politicians, God will judge you. Was anybody jailed? So the whole issue then comes to, is it a president who will say, well, I have been elected to prosecute an agenda, bring development and happiness to the people, so I wouldn't waste my time. And so it is his prerogative, even if there was an act of wrongdoing, or in this situation, there is still an act of wrongdoing, and the president says, no to hell, I have to, no fears, I have to prosecute. Or there is a gray area or subjective areas in our current laws, and the father of all laws, the Constitution, that is being exploited or manipulated. These are fundamental issues that, for me, over the past few months, I've kept on asking whether this Fourth Republic, and anytime you want to analyze issues critically as a scientist, I always also have that human touch that, look, we have a younger generation, we have children, brothers and sisters, and even over here, relatively younger colleagues, comrade and lawyer. So we don't need to be gloomy, despondent, and say that we want to live a future that is chaotic. Look, if those of us old enough, we knew the West African Baptist radio station when we used to tune in to shortwave, Liberia. So when we want to talk about people who are religious, we don't have monopoly over that. But look at what happened. So in the face of all these professions about God, we know, but lest God forbid. So that's why I'm saying that it's about time that we really raise issues about where we are going. I sit back and I look back in the crystal ball, way of age. You know, I was a serviceman, 1981. I've left school.
Oh, really?
Our party was in government, so we have also paraded the corridors of power. I had worked from the Ministry of Youth and Rural Development just behind the race course to the regional administration to collect my monthly allowance, 540 Ghana, 540 cedis. I was walking towards Makola to buy some fuel, 31st Thursday, around 11 a.m. and I saw late Vice President DeGram Johnson in his vehicle through PWD heading towards Opera with no dispatch. I said, Vice President, and they were in a haste, not knowing something was happening at Gonda Barracks. That was the revolution. And we lived through, and we were living in Nima, and I knew how some of these guys will normally take them Kobolo boys because of lack of opportunity. You could call them hardened guys. How the public toilet that virtually could not be used by anybody because it was in a mess, they went under and dug out hardened fecal matter, and it became usable. They were in for the revolution. And I'm happy, comrade, that you brought the NDC. I shudder to raise, having been in party leadership before, to talk about any political party. It's an internal matter. But it's good that you brought out these things. So, down the years, the economic front, even politically, then you ask, is it, number one, the sort of governance that the revolution brought forth? And then the NDC itself, is that a political party that came out of a revolution that today, if you want power after we've gone into constitutional rule in 1992-93 and you had a second term and you lost power to the opposition, and then you want power again, and that your founder will not comment, and his wife, who was first lady for 19 years, will contest a president. I'm talking as a CPP guy or a non-NDC and MPP, and then goes out to form a political party. And if there are state functions and the former president is there, former president on the ticket of NDC, she as a former first lady accompanies him and enjoys that glamour and honor. And today, from me as a non-NDC, non-MPP, your founder has a soft spot in his heart for the president of today. When the bill was passed for the Special Prosecutor's Office, Justice Emil Shaw said, look, this is a very laudable initiative. If it's really real to fight corruption, despite the constitutional ambiguity, because prosecution or anything is by the Attorney General. They say, look, the Attorney General will cede some of the authority. So let's say it's going to be a real fight. Well intended. Emil Shaw said, advertise. Don't politicize it. Then Marty Amidou is appointed, and there are NDC people, because they knew it was Marty Amidou, including some lawyers leading front benches in Parliament. You could see their pronouncement that they have soft spot because it's Marty Amidou of NDC, and then he also resigns. So when you ask me, Marty Amidou say he's a kidder. He's a kidder. You know, a person sits here all the time and say he always asks this question: NDC, who are your constituency underpinning? Who do you represent? One man, one vote, one value. So everybody has equality. So the masses, do you really represent them? I did not be hard on this question because my own party that even professes socialism. Then there are doubters in there, and today we have been rendered an obscure political force. And so these are some of the things, and then I'm happy he raised it. And all the issues that you raised towards the end of your submission, they're going to lose because of that, fine. Nature falls back on. Has NDC articulated that we want to stop this? Yesterday, you were not on the show. I think your other counterpart raised a point, and then I think the former deputy minister for Works and Housing, there was issue about the houses at the and then you raised the guy raised an issue, and another fellow on the program also said something. I wanted to phone him. I said, look, you made my day. That if a party that professes social democracy, and so the interest of the masses is supreme, it doesn't mean the interest of all others is secondary or subordinate. But you put up houses of that nature and go and see where people sleep, and you couldn't make it affordable or easy for people to go in. Who do you represent? So has any party articulated that we want to stop this? Certainly, there are grey areas and overlapping, conflicting areas in some of the legislations that have come from Parliament. If you want to create a subject matter for discussion on another platform, we can. I'm not a lawyer, but I can bring a lot because I've also at least served on certain boards, and I know the conflicting areas passed by Parliament. And I knew Justice VCRC Crab was heading an agency to a lawyer to bring all legislations exactly to be in line with the Constitution. I don't know how far that, but it's a very laudable initiative. But all that we're talking, I believe the legal minds or the legal team of the Attorney General, they think prosecution or the prosecution of Dr. Opuni has a basis in the law or the set of laws. But NDC or any other political party that aims at winning power and the opportunity is there, we should start hearing what you want to tell us. I have a young friend guy in my office in Lagos. Then one time he said, Prof, na me home for so be I said me a Ghana ni. So we a Ghana ni cry for so one day. 2 weeks is that what is it? What do you benefit as a Ghanaian? He said he's using a vehicle. The vehicle is worrying him or bothering him. Petrol is expensive. Then he wants to get a small car. His brother sends him the car. He's paying over 10 times duty. I said, but that is the nature of our governance system. We are the governments that we have elected run our own country like we are colonial people, and they are the colonial authority to come and sack money from us, sack money like blood, and then use part to dole out to as if on charity. That's the nature of our governance. Has anybody sat down to quantify the cost of governance, administration? We have the judiciary, the executive. So you have 110 ministries or ministers. This landmass, and I know this country very well. I know this country very well by the nature of my profession and the politics that I did some time ago. From 138 districts in 1993, we are 216, and we are adding how many? We have 10 regions, and we are going to add 6 more. And meanwhile, the center is heavy. Have we put cost on it? This is a country where we go and kneel down and beg for 1 kilometer road money. This is a country to date. When you go to the north, but for NGOs, many social amenities cannot be provided. This is a country. And when I call into programs, I say this Latebi Okoshi here. Latebi Okoshi is over 60-70 years old. There are roads here that I've never seen one spoonful of quota. And governments come and governments go, and then you talk of one village, one dam. Where will you get the water? If you have a football field, 1 hectare, and you have a borehole in the center, do you think a farmer will come and draw water and take it to the corner post to go and water his crop? It's a non-starter. And then knowing the hydrogeography or geology of this country, where is the water? So people in Amasaman, then Saki, and then the Dublo, which are all dry, where houses have been put in the riverbed, where would the dam come from? And by this time in the north, when major rivers like Sicily, Blackwater, Whitewater, etc. are dry to the bed, where are you going to get the water? But somehow, this has been trumpeted and everybody hook like a sinker. We've accepted it. One district, one factory. I want to see whether at Subin or at Abura Kwamankesi district, there are many schools there, whether we can support a company to set up a pencil factory. We challenge people to produce pencil because there's ready market for it. We challenge them. As we sit here, we have railway ministry now. We used to have railway authority, and not one single track had been laid. And we want to see whether we can lay a rail track from here to Buankra so that vehicles, articulators will stop coming to Tema. These are the landmark issues that we're talking about. And are these possible? They are not. You see? So the governance system that we have, will lead to this arbitrariness. 4-year term, 4-year term, and we are having promises as if we are going to govern like a king or a chief who has been installed, and we're going to govern for until we die. But it's a 4-year term. It's a 4-year term, Mr. Sean. And so for me, let's hope that Dr. Puni really committed offenses. Let's hope that. And indeed, from what we are hearing, obviously he will assemble a team to really defend himself. And we believe or we trust in our judges who will just listen to evidence with, records on issues. And obviously, I don't think a judge will be so capricious that when there's no merit in the case that is brought against a particular citizen, then they will just say to hell, I want to punish you because it's this government that is prosecuting this agenda. I don't think so.
It's happened before.
Well, fine. That's another aspect of it. Thank you, Mr. Kwesipra. Thank you. Now, you know, the issues that we are discussing, for me, are very, very critical. And I have a hunch feeling that the way we are proceeding with this Fourth Republic, very soon the political establishment will have people slapping them in the face. Slapping them flat in the face. Because I got the impression that we will get to a dead end very soon. We will get to a dead end. But we only pray that it will not be catastrophic. I rest my case for now.
Thank you very much, Professor Nino Doruna, for these brilliant submissions. It brings us to some 12 minutes to the top of the hour, 11 here on Alhaji and Alhaji, the mother of all talk shows. Comments have been coming through. I'd like to hear yours as well. You send them to me on Twitter and then Facebook using the handle at Samuel Ishen GH. That's how you would find me on Twitter and then on Facebook. So send those comments coming through. I'll come to Mr. Kwesipa Jr. for his thoughts on the first issue. Mr. Pratt.
Well, when I went to journalism school many years ago, one of the things that we were taught was press law. And we were told that if somebody does something and there's a likelihood that the person may be tried, when the likelihood of trial is established, if you make statements which presume his innocence or guilt even before the trial, judges can bring you up for contempt of court. There's a lesson that I was taught in 1972. And because of that, I've always been exceedingly careful in commenting on cases that are before the courts. And sometimes I'm even so careful about cases that are likely to be tried. You understand? I've been charged with contempt of court before. And on that occasion, I went to court in a t-shirt as a young reporter, beautiful t-shirt that I had and I thought that I could wear it. And in court, I tried to read a newspaper. That court was actually presided over by Justice Robbie. And I missed jail by just a whisker. So I'm very, very careful when it comes to these things. And I will try as much as I can not to make prejudicial statements in this matter. I think the first most important thing is that nobody can make a claim that there is no corruption in Ghana. It is not possible. Nobody can make that claim. The level of corruption is one which we assume. We assume it. One, because corruption is not something which is done in the open. It is done in secret. It is done in the darkness, and so on. And it's very, very difficult to measure corruption. So you have something like Corruption Perception Index. It is a perception. It is not an accurate empirical measurement. You understand? But based on our experiences, based on the things that we hear, based on the things that we are told and so on, all of us as Ghanaians, irrespective of our political orientation, irrespective of our social origins and so on, have come to the conclusion that there is a problem about corruption in this country and that we need to fight that problem. Now, I think whatever we do, whether in this country or in Azerbaijan or anywhere, it is important that we do it according to standards that are approved. And I think that in Ghana, we've all come to the point where we say that we want to live in a country which is governed by law. So even if you're going to fight corruption, it is important to do it in accordance with the law. Lynching, the lynch mob approach and the lynch mob mentality is something that we ought to avoid even in the fight against corruption. And it is for this reason that over the last week I've been seriously worried about an emerging trend and which found expression in the Parliament of the Republic, where you actually have a Deputy Speaker of Parliament who is a lawyer, and others, lawmakers, lawyers and so on, coming up to say that, look, suspected criminals should be shot on sight. So I'm very worried about this development. And this lynch mob mentality is not just about the fight against Galamsey and so on. It's about everything. We are developing a lynch mob mentality and a lynch mob attitude, which I find exceedingly worrying. Now, this morning, like Professor Ninoy Dowona, I've read the newspapers and I've read assurances by our distinguished Attorney General that the trial of Dr. Opuni and one other and other trials that are likely to begin must not be seen as witch hunts, and that they ought to be seen as a genuine, legitimate effort to fight sleaze and corruption. I hope she's right. And I hope, like she herself said, that at the end of the trial, all of these things will be clear to all of us. So I want to hope and I want to wait. This country has a history, and some of that history is exceedingly worrying. And some of that history is something that we do not want to be repeated, whether it's in the trial of Dr. Opuni or in the trial of any other person. What history am I talking about? I'm talking about the trial and conviction of Mr. Chachu Chikata, when indeed the law was deliberately turned upside down and all notions of morality were deliberately trampled upon. I do hope that it will never happen again. And I do hope that what happened in the trial of Mr. Chikata would not happen to any other person, whether the person is an MPP man, an NDC man, or a PNC man. What are some of the things that happened? You do recall that in the trial, at a certain point, the court decided that the fast-track court was unconstitutional. Another court was empaneled on appeal and so on. And one judge who had actually been a proponent of the establishment of the fast-track court was allowed or encouraged or procured, to sit on that panel. So the outcome of the case was determined long before the case was heard, and all of us expressed worry about that. Another aspect of the case which for me was so unsavory was the fact that a judge actually ruled that because Mr. Chachuchikata is a lawyer, he is not entitled to legal counsel. I mean, very, very strange judgment. But it happened. And I want to hope that these things are things of the past. We have learnt our very, very important lessons, and that we would not repeat them again. Now, in fact, my brother and friend, Edoji, made the point that he has a lot of respect for the Attorney General. I have the same level of respect for the Attorney General. And indeed, when the whole hula baloo about the establishment of the Office of the Special Prosecutor came up, I stated publicly that if it is about integrity and so on, I did not think that Mr. Martin Amidu had more integrity than Gloria Kufu. I made that point very clear. So this is a woman whose integrity I respect. But you see, it's also important for us to understand that even though the Constitution says very, very clearly that prosecutions must be done on the fiat of the Attorney General, solely on the fiat of the Attorney General, I think it will be exceedingly naive for us to think that who to prosecute, how to prosecute and so on, is something that only an Attorney General can decide. There are all kinds of factors, of forces and so on, who may, and I say may, be very influential when it comes to determining those issues. Even for the special prosecutor, I'm not so sure that the special prosecutor by himself and himself alone will make all of these determinations. Given the fact that the powers exercised by the special prosecutor are derived from the office of the Attorney General. You understand? So all of these complications are there. But nonetheless, I expect the Attorney General and indeed all persons who will be involved in the handling of this case to be professional, to be honest, and to display a very, very high level of integrity. Now, having said this, I think it is important, even for the Attorney General, to notice that a trial of the accused persons has already begun in the media. The newspaper trial has already begun. And indeed, that newspaper trial is highly prejudicial in this matter. All kinds of things are being written and said about Dr. Opuni and the other accused person. And I'm really, really worried about this development. Look, our judges are as human as we are. Our judges, they want to maintain their self-esteem in society. Our judges want to be seen as normal, regular human beings, and so on. And all of these factors, sociological, political, and so on, eventually influence decisions which are made by the courts. They are natural. And indeed, those of you who have studied law would have learnt in law school that the determination of cases and so on are done within a certain social, political, and economic milieu. And indeed, that the background of those who apply the law, those who enforce the law and so on, are important in the determination of outcomes and so on. So if the society is already poisoned against certain individuals, the likelihood of their getting a fair trial diminishes. And I'm very deeply worried by this campaign, sometimes of slander, campaigns sometimes bordering on calumny, campaigns meant to convict even before the trial begins. I'm very, very deeply worried by this. And I do hope that whoever the trial judge may be, and whoever may lead the prosecution, it does appear that Madame Gloria Kufu will be leading the prosecution. And whoever the defense counsel may be, they have to work together in order to end this needless and harmful trial by the media. Because I think it's a very, very important thing that we ought to do in order to ensure, fair trial. I have taken the trouble to look at the 27 charges or whatever which have been leveled against the accused persons. I would not make my comments public at this stage. There's no need for me to make my comments public. But I've taken my time to study them very, very carefully. And even as a lay person, I've come to some conclusions. But those conclusions must be mine for now. There's no need to express them. My main worry is about what we ought to do in order to achieve a fair trial of the persons who have been accused. One, those who have been accused need to be given the full opportunity to defend themselves, to select legal counsels of their choice and so on. You understand? I think it's very important. It's important for the courts themselves not to come to any predetermined conclusions before the trial begins and so on. And it is important for the accused persons to be presumed innocent before the trial comes to an end. So for now, Dr. Puni is an innocent person. It is up to the Attorney General to establish his guilt. And before the Attorney General establishes his guilt, he is an innocent person. But you see, the prejudicial statements are being made from all sides, not just the media. I mean, I'm more deeply worried about persons who claim to be members of the National Democratic Congress who are making exceedingly prejudicial statements in this matter. The other time I was listening to radio and I heard somebody come up and say that, oh, Dr. Puni, he was so arrogant. I mean, he wanted to see Dr. Puni and he had to wait in the reception for 4 hours. So they must deal with him, they must send him to jail very quickly. My goodness, Dr. Puni is not on trial for making you wait at his reception for 4 hours. He is on trial for causing financial loss to the state. He is on trial on a charge of conspiracy to defraud and so on. So you're waiting at his reception for 4 hours and so on is no basis for conviction. And you see, even if it is true that you have been wronged by somebody and so on, why should you wish that the person should go to jail? So those statements are very, very unhealthy statements. Those statements are exceedingly prejudicial. Those statements are not in the interest of justice. But you see, a certain impression has also been created out there that this trial is a trial which will prove that the NDC was corrupt or was not corrupt. I know a little bit, and I want to say with emphasis that even if in the end the two persons are convicted, it may not confirm the suspicion that persons in the Mahama administration were corrupt. Because I happen to know the people who have been put on trial. Yes, Dr. Puni was an avowed member of the National Democratic Congress. But the other gentleman, what is his name? Can somebody help me? Yeah. He was not, to the best of my knowledge, an appointee of the Mahama administration and so on. In fact, I do know that his brother-in-law heavily, and I mean it, heavily assisted the New Patriotic Party to come to power. I do know as a fact that his wife's brother is a very strong person in the Nana Akufo-Addo campaign. You understand? So if he's convicted, how is that a conviction which would demonstrate that NDC elements are corrupt and so on? And indeed, from what I know, he is not that political, from what I know. From what I know, unless I'm wrong, he doesn't bear a card of any political party and so on. He was just an ordinary, simple businessman trying to make his money and so on. Indeed, I have so much to say. But because I'm so afraid of the law of contempt, I'm gagging myself, but I have so much to say. And I really wish that this trial will be expedited so that at the end of it, all of us can say what is on our chest. Because I have so very much to say. But you see, if you know the law, in the manner in which I know the law, I didn't do the law like my brother here did the law. He did proper law and so on. I did a small aspect of the law. Yes, just to guide me in my practice of journalism. Very small aspect of the law just to guide me in there. So I am very, very careful to tempt the law. And that is why I'm being exceedingly restraint in this matter. What we want is fair trial, and what we want is that at the end of the day, an innocent person should not be convicted because of our politics. What we want is that at the end of the day, somebody who ought to be guilty should not be freed on account of our politics and so on. What we want is that justice ought to prevail. And we are all watching very closely. In fact, we are going to scrutinize every step in this trial. Every step in this trial. Everybody, and I'm sure I'm not the only person, many people, indeed, if not everybody, will have their eyes wide open and their ears, very, very active in the course of this trial. So those involved in this trial should not assume for one moment that they will be above public scrutiny. We are all watching and waiting.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pratt. I'm sure this first message from Twitter will interest you. It's coming from Siddiq Abubakar, and he says, Sami, if you guys have this song, please play it for Mr. Pratt. Bob Marley's We've Got So Much Things to Say Right Now. That's a song he would want for me to play for you. Siddiq sends that message through Hack BS, sends the message. It's very funny how Ghanaians have been taken for granted through the inimical way of fighting corruption. Whilst there are various corruption allegations against his appointees, the president is now shying away and cooking maliciously against the former government appointees. Akoto Razak sends the message. The Nana Bawumia government has borrowed more than any government, yet no single infrastructure has been in place. All they know is talk. Habib from his home sends the message. Again, talking about Dr. Opuni, it's a pity that such a witch hunt is going on under the so-called human rights lawyer and president when it comes to corruption. Another government is the most corrupt government Ghana ever has had. 2020 in Sawon will be full. You sent that one through. This one from Messi. Adibola, I hope I got the pronunciation of your name right. Messi Adiobola, yes, Adiobola. You say that Sami, I can see you witch hunting comrade Murtala Ibrahim in the studio. You caution him against your name, Eshon. Meanwhile, Professor Nino Edowina have been saying Eshon, and you've not cautioned him.
So what is it? What should we say? How do you pronounce it?
That's a good one.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. I
Hey, you Farouk sends the message. Good morning. In fact, the comments made by Deputy Speaker that MPP, that MPP that should. Okay, all right. Farouk, I'll come back to your message. Abdul Salam Kasaugu sends the message. NDP simply wants to divert people's attention from the harsh eviction of traders at Nanado's residence, the failure to arrest the city, and the insecurity we are going through. They simply want to use Dr. Opuni's name to cover all the mess they have created. Tulasi Mathia sends the message. In hope, if you are in a hurry, you will definitely become corruption 1, corruption 2, corruption 3, etc. clearing officer. Patrick Aaron sends the message. Sami, have you forgotten about the Oda Ibidai statement by Nanado? That's the routine, so don't condemn Joseph Osei without condemning Akufo-Addo. Indeed, we shall start shooting corrupt government officials. Raymond sends the message. For the first time in years, Alhaji and Alhaji has started on time. Raymond, I disagree. We've started on time for quite some time now. Okay.
Who this text is directed at.
Okay, so those are a few of the tweets that have come through this morning. Let me go to Facebook and read. There are lots and lots of messages on Facebook. Michael Amani sends the message. As a matter of fact, I can't think far about the political rhetorics that the seasoned lawyer Godwin Tamakulu is exhibiting this morning about the corruption charges leveled against Stephen Opuni. Lawyer Godwin Tamakulu doesn't know that Ghanaians can be better if we are to fight corruption, and that's what President Akufo-Addo and his government are doing, and it will be of interest to Godwin and his NDC apparatchiks to spare our ears with their propaganda. Michael Amani sends that one through. Starring Wendell sends the message. Good morning, Uncle Sam. Do you think that NPP MP, who is a lawmaker in our August House and advocating a shoot-to-kill policy to deter galamseyers, told his constituents who are into small-scale mining they would have voted for him? Such pretension coming from you, starring Wendell. Stephen Kwabinatu sends the message. Good morning, Sami, and to all your panelists. For me, the simple thing I have to say about this very case against Dr. Stephen Opuni is that the courts have an opportunity based on how they handle this case to prove Professor Raymond Atuguba wrong or right. Have a wonderful day. That's a very interesting comment, Stephen, you made. Komla Genya sends the message. I am not comfortable with NEC's defense of Dr. Opuni at this time. They should allow him to defend himself. They had their time in 2009 to prosecute Kofo's alleged corrupt appointees, but failed to do so and applied father of all method. I simply hope they are learning their lessons. I'm only worried about the possible bias of the judiciary in favor of the president's present administration. This one from Musa Abatua says, I'm not a lawyer, but my layman understanding of the law is that the fact that government charged Dr. Opuni in Agogo doesn't mean they actually committed any crime. On the other hand, we've got the right to believe it's political witch hunting. An MPP Honorable Kennedy Japan has said that if Dr. Opuni is not jailed, he will drink poison, and government is rushing to save him from dying. We've got countless corruption allegations at boss sole sourcing Maslow NLA, but government is not concerned about that. That's your question that you posed this morning. Prekese Kwame Aristocrat sends the message: if the allegations against Opuni is based on causing financial loss to the state, how can Opuni's fake fertilizers he gave it to the farmers for free are being sold by the same MPP government again? If those fertilizers made Ghana earn 900,000 plus metric tons of cocoa, how did he make Ghana lose money? He must get a solid legal team, since the MPP has started using the media trial. Chachuchi Keta suffered same fate when Kofo appointed 2 justices into the Supreme Court to overturn the verdict. Prekese Kwame Aristocrat from Kaswa Old Barrier sends that one through. Okay, AU Farouk says, good morning to you, Shen, and to your able panelists. In fact, I don't call for prosecution of people, but if one found corrupt, the law. Farouk, take your time and send me those messages. I will patiently read the messages. Just take your time and send them to me. I'll read them. Okay, Baba Musa sends the message: President Akufo-Addo has no interest in dealing with corruption in his government. Otherwise, when is Nana Akufo-Addo going to give directives to the AG to commence prosecution of the following people or actors? The boss contamination of 5 million liters and sold at 1 Ghana cedi instead of the 2.5 per liter, which resulted in a loss of some 7 million Ghana cedis. Very lengthy message. You sent to Kenbon, 2.25 billion. Okay, chop at Ghana 60, even though government released 5.26 million to the secretariat. Ironically, the library projects, etc., have been abandoned. From February 2017 to November 2017, 200 diversions of premix fuel amounted to 22 million. Dubious expenditure on failed energy bond amounting to a whopping 117 million Ghana cedis. Lots and lots and lots of lots. It's very lengthy, Baba. You are not in China, so I will skip some part of the text messages that you have sent this morning. That's by way of the text messages that I have. Okay, finally, this one came through from Hadi from Pig Farm. He says, Ghanaians are getting increasingly disturbed that the president doesn't yet have an economic direction. There is no anchor, no clarity. All we are getting are fake messages, sweet statements, rhymes, promises, and alliterations. So far, there is no proper articulation to give us an idea of where we are headed. The president and his team are not correcting the very many dots that are not correcting. There is no roadmap, no coherence. 1 year after taking over, an economic projected. Okay, I believe that's your message, and the point has been made. Very lengthy message you sent through as well. And so that brings us to the end of our first session. We do have only 40 minutes before the show comes to an end, and so if we can all stick to the time and deal with the second matter, which has to do with the shoot to kill order by the first deputy speaker of parliament, and the Maslock matter where some 1,800 cars were given to an individual and matters are arising. Issues about procurement and how the due was given to the company. That's our second matter for this morning. I'd like to hear your comments as well, and you can send them to me on Twitter and on Facebook. Simply just send to me at Samuel HNGH and I'll read those comments. So 10 minutes each, and we should be able to finish the show on time to hand over to the sports team. I'll start with you, Comrade Mutala Ibrahim, for your comments on the two issues. 10 minutes. I'll be strict with my time. Parliament, first Deputy Speaker, shoot to kill, and then the Maslock matter.
Well, I think that I would just focus on the shoot to kill. And I think when we had, when he made the statement and it was reported in the news, I believe that every rational human being in Ghana was shocked. But you see, with the MPP, when you complain, they double down. I think that in as much as we considered the statement made by the first Deputy Speaker shocker, the subsequent statement made by the majority leader for me was extremely worrying. The majority leader, Honorable Chairman Sabonsu, reported to have even endorsed the statement that was made by the first deputy speaker. It is worrying because this is a lawyer of a long-standing years of practice, and he has been, at least this is, I think, about his third term in parliament. The extent to which he should be the last person, a lawyer of standing, should have been conscious of Article 19 of the 1992 Constitution that talks about fair trial, that everybody is proven innocent until proven guilty by a court of competent jurisdiction. The worrying aspects of it has also to do with the narrative that has suddenly been changed by the NPP. I listened to my good friend John Kuma this morning before I left home on TV3, and he sought to say that if the people go to where they engage in this galamsey and other sandwinning, and the people threaten them with guns, what do you expect them to do? And that by extension, the gentleman made the statement to that effect, and I think that is completely wrong. As a former member of parliament, I do have an appreciation of the standing orders of the House. In fact, if you look at the standing orders, when a statement is made, or when someone is making a statement on an issue, your response or contributions, not response, in fact, it doesn't even allow response. Contributions to that statement must not elicit debate. So if I make a statement, let's say, on galamsey, now people are allowed to contribute to that statement, but their contribution must not elicit debate. Even if you have a different view rather than the view that is expressed in the statement that is made by a member of parliament, you hold that view. You can also have another statement that is made, perhaps to question some of the positions taken by members, which automatically may include the position taken by the earlier statement that was made, to which you are not satisfied with. Now, even if you want to make a statement on the floor, you would have to submit the statement to the speaker. And in fact, they will vet it. The speaker and the leadership will go through that statement. And now once they go through the statement and certify that this is a statement that can be made, and again, they do that because it must not elicit debate. So your statement should also not be a statement that will force others to begin to engage in debate. Now, this was a statement that was made by Honorable Ras Mubarak. And he made the statement precisely so because he is a member of parliament in an area where an armed people were killed, were beaten, and their trucks were destroyed. About 13 tipper trucks, including a bulldozer, were destroyed. And we need to look at the facts first and foremost. It is not true that the gentlemen who were engaged in that sandwinning were engaged in an illegality, and I would explain why I say so. But before I give that explanation, so the statement that is now being twisted about galamsey is bonkers. The response to the statement was on sandwinning and a specific incident in northern region and in the Kumbungu constituency. So if people are now linking it to galamsey and others, for me, is absolutely bogus. It was about that specific incident in Tamale, in Kumbungu. Now, I am saying this because sandwinning in that area was a complaint that the Ghana Water Company made. As a result of that, they alleged that it was affecting the water body through which domestic water is provided for the people of Tamale and its environs. Now, they had a meeting which included the regional minister, Ghana Water Company, and the truck owners and drivers. And they agreed that they should not engage in the sandwinning at a place called Dalong. So they were asked to relocate to a place called Afayile. This was the place they were, and this was the place that the military men went there and have those trucks bent. When the minority went, led by the minority leader, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, they went to Afayile, and as I talk to you, the tracks are at Afayile and not at Dalong. So it is not true that they were engaged in an illegality. Something is illegal when you do things that contravenes the law or prescribed regulations. Now, if the people were asked to move from Dalong to Afayile by Ghana Water Company, the DCE, the regional administration, and everybody in the traditional leaders, and they actually moved from where they were engaged in the sandwinning to a place allocated and prescribed for them, and you go there and then you can't tell me they were engaged in an illegality. That's the first statement. I listened to Honorable Nitowol, and I was wondering whether I should cry or I should laugh. He granted an interview, and he came across as an absolute arrogant person. Long before you joined politics, you were a teacher. Did you have a tipper truck? That they would burn about 13 tipper trucks, and you see fun in it. And he said that there was a meeting that was held at a cabinet meeting, that the decision was taken after a cabinet meeting to send the military there to do the things they engage in. He also created the impression as if the military is a bunch of reckless and unguided individuals. And for me, that is extremely insulting, and he's a danger to the professional conduct of the military and other security services in this country as a Minister for Defense. The most disciplined profession you can think of is the military. And I think the Prof would be in a better position to explain this further. I have lived in a military barracks, at least briefly at the Tamale, the Kamina barracks. The extent to which when you see a military officer passing by an office that is occupied by a senior rank and the person is in the office, you salute before he passes. Even if the officer in the office doesn't even have the opportunity to see him, it tells you how disciplined this profession is. And the Minister of Defense to say that when the military go and conduct themselves and you don't question it, the military conduct themselves in accordance with the laws of Ghana. The military officers are not above the laws of Ghana. So when you have a Minister of Defense who speaks the way he spoke, it tells you that he assumes and concludes that the military is just a reckless group of people when in actual fact they are not. Again, you have the regional minister who was also accused. Until I listened to the Minister for Defense, I said, oh, we may not necessarily accuse the regional minister, because he said it was a decision taken by cabinet, and this also happened. Sean, there is also another very important point. These people went there and have these tracks bent. You have the MP of the area who made a statement to bring to fore the concerns genuinely of these people. You got up as a first speaker and then you said shoot and kill. He has completely forgotten or disregarded what Article 19 of the 1992 Constitution says, that shoot and kill. And you have MPP communicators defending this recklessness and irresponsibility. I thought by now that member of parliament should be apologizing to the people of this country. You remember my uncle, the former MP for Daboya, when he made that statement on the floor of parliament, you remember, about women. You remember he made a statement. There was a statement he was contributing. Everybody was on him to apologize. He did apologize. Now this guy has made a statement that they should shoot and kill people. Even an armed robber. When an armed robber is arrested, you cannot say shoot and kill. Because there are instances where people can be wrongly arrested. There are instances where people have even been wrongly arrested. In every democracy, we have had instances where people have been jailed for decades, only for evidences to show that they were wrongly arrested and they ought not have been jailed. Now, people, you go into an area, unarmed people who are engaged in illegal work. It was not an illegality, and you say that they should have just shot to kill. Assuming we even want to stretch it and move it from San Winning to Galamsey, that yes, nobody will condone anybody wanting to destroy the environment. And again, I have commended this government for continuing what the NDC government started. And I am on record to have said that Galamsey for me is more than terrorism, because it destroys our water bodies and others. But remember that those people who are engaged in that illegality are citizens of this country. Their parents, they have kids, and when they get out there and engage in an illegality, and you don't arrest and then you shoot and kill them, you would have rendered their wives widows and their daughters and sons orphans. What would be your position, Mr. MP, that if you go out there and someone suspected that you engaged in something, shot you and killed, what would be the position of your wife and kids? Now, instead of him being a bit sensitive to the plight of people, he went ahead and made this reckless statement in no less a place then the August House of Parliament, and then you find the majority leader who is coming out to justify what he said, and suddenly they are now trying to find a justification, taking completely what he said out of context, and saying that he meant that, okay, even if people are going to attack them with arms, they should also respond. Even in security, is not minimum force ought to be used. It is not everywhere that even if the police or other security agencies are going to effect an arrest, they must necessarily use force. At the end of the day, if people are even armed robbers, that is why unfortunately we have had instances where you have police officers under a very strong circumstances will be shot and killed, and people say, why didn't they also shoot? Now, if you want to see a class link of people engaged in crime, you would want to arrest people alive, so that subsequent investigation will be able to give you a detailed information as to the wing and the people that they are engaged in. So I think that this statement for me was not only reckless, it was completely irresponsible, yet they want to defend the statement. And clearly what Nanado's philosophy may be, one man, one bullet.
Thank you very much, Comrade, for your submission. I will come to Professor Nino Dowuna for his submission on our second issue. Prof.
Yeah. What has not come out clearly, as Comrade indicated, that the first Deputy Speaker made this statement on the floor of the House. Was that right?
Yes.
He contributed to a statement.
A statement. The statement was most unfortunate, reckless, and irresponsible.
I love Radio Gold 90.5.
Parliament itself is a very august body, just like the executive and the judiciary. You know, one Mr. Techi, who was a one-time clerk of Parliament, back in the 31st July graphic, wrote an article in the graphic, I can't be precise, and it said of protocols and titles. And Honorable, with due respect, it said the proper designation is Alhaji Mutala or Mr. Mutala, Member of Parliament, Honorable Member of Parliament of Cape Coast, or Honorable Member of Parliament for Ayawaso West. That's a proper designation. But like anything in Africa, where honor and title is so cherished, the honorable goes with you for the rest of your life. And assemblymen and everybody has grabbed those titles. But it was most unfortunate. And I heard commentary on, oh, the guy had been a lawyer of great standing. But lawyer, if your character is not correct in the local parlance, you're being a lawyer of many years standing cannot change you. You see, but such has been the politics that we are practicing today, that people take the electorate for granted. And like we always say, we are advancing. We are already getting to 26 years of our fourth attempt at constitutional rule. And it is important that those who engage in must know that they have to contribute towards enhancing the integrity of the whole system. You don't go into Parliament where you are a lawmaker. You have your personal position. These are things when you have some hot fufu meal and you are somewhere, you can talk anyhow. But it is important that we take note of the era in which we are. It's a constitutional democracy where rule of law is number one. And so you don't make such personal statements or statements on your own opinion when you occupy that high position. And it's most unfortunate, and I think the first Deputy Speaker must find a forum to apologize, and we will forgive him. But the critical thing about the whole statement is a mark of frustration on handling these hydra-headed issues that confront us. The act of indiscipline. We've had occasion in this studio to talk about that. I said one time a guy who hails from Half-Assini came back from the US and he was able to count the number of speed ramps or speed bumps, whatever you call it, from here to Half-Assini. He said 640. And it's true. How Eshan, I've got it right. If you're going to Cape Coast, you can count about 300 before you get to Cape Coast. And it is true. And it's because of what? Because we don't respect law. And any of us, we all drive. You realize that in a year, no matter whether your car is second hand or you hardly change anything on the engine, apart from your routine changing oil. But what apart from petrol or fuel, you realize today ball joint, next time shock absorber, the next time tie rod, and it is about the under of the car. Let me call it under. That's where we spend money because our roads are not good. And because we don't obey law or we don't respect law, we don't fear law, if I will put it in that local balance, we have assumed that that is a way of life. And in recent times, yesterday, this morning, very, very chilling. Here is at Achimota police station. A vehicle has stopped for a lady to cross the road. A motorbike coming with somebody sitting behind the rider. Noting that vehicles have stopped, was just running through, bang. The guy sitting at the back nearly broke his leg. And if you drive these days, you see that it's like those riding motorbike. For them, it's like driving free range road. And the police is so pathetic. IGP said we shouldn't use siren. The Minister for Information also made a statement recently. But look, yesterday night, I had to give way. Me on my right lane, I had to give way each time running off on that Gimpa Legon road. They do so all the time. Why? Because the police service itself, if there is traffic build up, the first vehicle you see popping up, if there's a police vehicle, and they run off. They run off. And so I made it a point in this studio that the police service, the way they are now, they are just pathetic. And it is not the people in there, but I think they need the attention of all of us to see why an institution that is enabled with proper legislation to bring law and order in our way of life for the advancement of our cause as a society is now in a pathetic state that the officers, IGP and his men mean well, but nothing seems to be happening. It's like nobody now fears the police. And all the laws that we keep on making, on the count, lawyer, how many laws have we asked of them? It's about 900 and something. Each of them with LI, which body is to enforce? It's a police service. So you see how vital that institution is. And talk about the MTTU, which is now a department, and the dangers on our road. So the police itself at the heart of law enforcement, leading to this Galamsey issue or whatever acts of wrongdoing by our citizenry that led to the first deputy speaker to say shoot and kill. It means that we have lost the fight. We have lost the fight in stamping off indiscipline. That is what is at the heart of it. And for me, I think the crusade is that the police service or the policing must attract the attention of all of us. If they have to be reinvented, because when you talk of the personnel in terms of capacity or qualification, the police service now, if you look at the command structure, the qualification of those who occupy DSPs, district commander, I think they can rival any professional body. They are not the type of police we used to know, buga type. And so why is it that with this highly qualified top hierarchy, the police service is not really working? When it comes to cases that must be investigated and cases that are thrown off in court, what is happening? These are all the challenge. Now we come to the second aspect of the topic. You say mass lock. I did some computation. They said a company called Detrox Impex had a sole sourcing contract to purchase, or they purchased 1,800 vehicles at $28.8 million. Is it Ghana cedis?
Ghana cedis.
When you compute, it comes to 16,000. Which vehicles were those? That's the question. 16,000. Is it new or second hand? Because even on the second hand market, you can't get a car for 16,000. You see? But then the question comes up, is it this sole sourcing that the government was touting that, oh, now we stop sole sourcing, and so we are saving lots of money? And then when the Minister of State in charge of procurement was asked, she said the question should be parried off to the Ministry of Finance. Now, this sole sourcing, is it embedded in the law? That is a Public Procurement Act of 2003, Act 663, and amended 914. These are the questions that we need to ask. For now, I don't have the answer. But critically, we really need to look at all these issues. And comrades, as I indicated, going into the next elections, matters or the campaign must be issues-based. And I know that there are weak areas in the procurement law. The way the law is, I can tell you that you may want to buy this, what do you call it? I wouldn't mention the name, this bottled water. And once you go through the process and you have the capability to supply and your price quotation is okay, this may end up being 3 cedis a bottle, but the law is said that you've done your procurement properly. And for 16,000, I don't know the vehicle that we're talking about, and maybe I would like to buy one. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your submission. I come to lawyer Godwin Edigi Tamaklo.
Yes, so quickly, I will share my time within 1 or 2 stuff, but within the same 10 minutes. Now, it's important that we look.
5 minutes of my time.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to deal with some subject matters. But first of all, let me start with the most reckless comments by, I don't think I should call him honorable any longer. He does not deserve the title honorable. You are honorable if you comply with the laws of the Republic of Ghana. So for an MP to be on the floor of Parliament, to make that reckless comment, he deserved not the title honorable again. Look, this whole business of galamsey should not even be an issue. But for Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's own deception, and if there is anybody who should be charged for defrauding by false pretenses, it should be the president. Look, when he went to Obuasi and he met the mining community, those galamseyers, he said, and let me just say it in Aka, say NDC for Nam Eke can say, se me Nana Addo me be president me gu galamsey ejuma. And ye no kre ne, and ye no kre chna. Na eye nada. Na mi a me se me ba me di ejuma ebre Ghana for no me den gu galamsey. And you told them this, and they joined queues and voted for you. Having gotten the power, for whatever reason, you decided to stop the galamsey. Fair. It's within your right as a president. They will also decide in 2020 what they want to do with you based on what you have, your decision. But on top of this, I remember that these guys, and most of them even have legitimate leases duly given to them, the small scale. Now you have stopped everything. And these guys went to banks with their leases. The banks, on the basis of the leases so given to these small scale miners, gave them advances. They used this money to buy trucks. Now you have placed a moratorium on the whole exercise. They cannot get their money back. People are selling their houses. Banks are chasing these young people. And on top of it, instead of telling them something sensible, with the greatest respect, you say, when you get them in the act, shoot them. Here is a senior lawyer, Parliament of Ghana, and in fact, Joe Osewusu, was in the Parliament of Ghana when the Minerals and Mining Act at 703 was amended, because at that time the punishment for illegal mining was deemed by the legislature to be a bit lenient. So Parliament amended the act to increase or make the punishment a bit more stiffer. And the procedure is stated that, look, when in the process of arresting somebody engaged in illegal mining, or when the person is so arrested, when you take the person through due process, equipment and others obtained in the process ought to be confiscated, gazetted, and given to statutory agencies. That is what he, as an MP, together with the Parliament of Ghana, put in as the way to deal with small scale or galamsey miners. So for you to go and espouse extrajudicial means in dealing with this small scale miners, in any case, they are our countrymen. I tell people, look, but for law, California developed on the basis of the gold rush. Most advanced countries develop on the basis of what we are now calling small scale mining or galamsey. That's how they developed. Yes, we have laws that says do it this way or that way. If the republic has lost control, we should gracefully say, look, we have lost control. Look, if people are doing mining in a manner you don't like, bring EPA and others, let them come and regulate how this thing is done. These young men want job to do. They say they don't want to steal. They don't want to be armed robbers. They don't want to be corrupt. All they want to do is to go to the ground and dig. Show them how to do it properly. You say no. Now, if you are caught illegally doing it, you should be shot without the benefit of due process. And this is not coming from an ordinary foot soldier. It's an elected member of parliament. And in fact, the Bekwai areas, they are all one way or the other involved. The people who joined the queue and voted for him, for his family, himself, and every time to get food to eat, now he's advocating that they should be shot on sight. When this man was involved, or his name came up in the parliamentary bribery scandal, was he shot? Was he not allowed the benefit of going through due process? Was a committee not put in place to give him the benefit to clear his name? Why this extreme policy of shoot to kill? And in all of this, Nanado will come, I'm not aware. Mr. President, you are losing control.
But he has lost it.
With the greatest respect, sir, it is not good. Look, the whole world, Amnesty International and the rest, always tout the human rights records of this country. Even in military times, there was no policy of shoot to kill. How much more when we are being told that the celebrated human rights lawyer is our president? The people who involved themselves in the dastardly murder of Major Maswell Mahama, the reason why they are in court today is that they use extrajudicial means to, do whatever they did. That's why they are in court. And that's exactly what the Honorable MP is advocating for. And for me, it is so dangerous. These young men were emboldened when Anado Dankwa Akufo-Addo himself told them that NDC fund and I'm casting media meba mbegu mining and yet no credit. So the people felt, oh, Nana be there, ye be yes jumai. Now, if you have come and these guys are in a state of despondency, please, Mr. President, say something better. This shoot to kill is going to destroy the international human rights records of Ghana. In fact, Ghana has been represented on several human rights related organizations. So for a whole deputy speaker of parliament, and Professor Okwe was just watching him, I can't believe this. Professor Michael Okwe is a very, very, very senior lawyer. In fact, one of Professor Michael Okwe's problem with the PNDC and Rawlings was that they claimed that there were human rights violations under the Rawlings PNDC administration. Where they shoot to kill policy, Professor Okwe, right speaker, please call Honorable Osewusu to order. In fact, in any civilized society, he should be stripped of that honorable title. He deserves it not.
Majority leader has defended it, so what else do you want?
And I was surprised when concurrent approval was given by the majority leader. I mean, the arrogance of these MPP people is short. Look, sometimes it's like, oh, 53% Ghanaians voted for us, so we can do whatever we want. What will happen to you in 2020? You have no idea. The same 53% people, they will tell you what they can do to you. You think that, oh, you are Mugabe in Swami, right? You can do anything. Talk reckless. Oh, Bekwai, I'm from Bekwai, so I can do anything reckless. One day, if your activities at DVLA are subjected to forensic tests, and somebody says, because of one infraction, you should be shot on sight. Old Vanda, Joe Wise, will you be happy?
All right, lawyer. Even with Mr. Pratt's 5 minutes, yes, Mr. Pratt even gave you 5 minutes already. So, Mr. Pratt
has given it to me, but let me give you. I'm just responding to something that the Honorable Attorney General has stated and Daily Guide reported here, that by the time they are done, it will be shown that Opuni and Sedu Agungo were not in position to supply those fertilizers. Let me just read
that the Opuni knew.
Yes, that they were not in position. And so this is April 2015. Ghana Health Extension Division, Cocoa Board, their own report, field report. So I'll just read and then we can end it here. The team stopped over at some of the farms within the districts, which were applied with Litovit foliar fertilizer. The farms were observed to be carrying heavy loads of mature ponds with signs of flowers developing. The most encouraging observations were made in Bechim, Brekum, Doma, Sankore districts. The farms at Gros, though were carrying ponds, was not very encouraging. It, however, showed signs of producing fresh flowers. Some of the farmers who were met on the farm attested to the fact that there have been massive increases in their cocoa yield due to the application of the Litovit liquid fertilizer. This is Cocoa Board's own report. Samuel, I want to maintain and maybe to take a cue from what the discussion so far. I am confident. My hope in the judiciary has never in any way been in doubt. At the end of the day, once the case is properly assigned to a judge, like we always say, the prosecution must prove their case beyond reasonable doubt. The accused persons are entitled to all the fair trial benefits as enshrined in Article 19 of the 1992 Constitution. I am very, very confident, just as the Attorney General is also confident, that by the time they are done with the guilt, I am also confident. In fact, there is nothing precludes me from demonstrating a certain confidence based on what, at least as a lawyer, I know. But that does not in any way preclude any judge from reaching a conclusion that that judge thinks is ideal under the circumstance. The facts and everything. And what is even more shocking, and let me conclude on this, is that as late as 2017, the government of Ghana under Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo were selling fertilizer imported under the leadership of Dr. Opuni with the mark not for sale. Hold on, no. Fertilizer that were imported with the mark not for sale by Dr. Opuni were being sold under the administration of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. And we are being told that these same people have occasioned financial loss to the state. I, at the end of the day, want to say that, you see, a good name, they say, is better than riches. my brother and Comrade Mutala made a point. Today, it is Opuni. I don't know how close they may be getting towards Eduji. So I will not sit down and say, oh, I don't know Opuni from Adam. If I know that what is happening is nothing but politics. That one, I will speak out. And our constitution is founded on that undoubtable principle that we should prosecute and not persecute. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And that brings us to just a minute or so to the top of the hour, 12. It's been good and great having you with us here live on Alhaji and Alhaji, the mother of all talk shows. I'll read my final comments and we'll hand you over to the sports crew for the. I thought you said
1 minute. You said 1 minute. You said 1 minute.
5 minutes.
Only 5 minutes, but he was supposed to.
5 minutes. He took it.
He sat by
1 minute.
What are you saving the time for?
For the sports people.
Useless jingle. Yeah, we are not going straight to sports. We are going to spend the time playing.
Yes, but those are commercials.
You don't worry. Just give him
commercials, my friend.
Anyway, he says he wants to use a minute, so let me give Mr. Pat a minute.
Well, you see, as far as I'm concerned, and please excuse my language, but one of the most foolish things in our history happened in Kumbungu within the last 2 weeks. You had security personnel actually lining up very expensive equipment which would cost up to about 1 million cedis and so on, and setting them alight. I mean, it's so foolish, it's unbelievable. I mean, I can't use any other word. It's extremely foolish. I cannot see anything which is more foolish than that. You have district assemblies who do not have vehicles, who do not have equipment to build roads, to solve the problems of the people and so on. And then some individuals bring in equipment. And the most sensible thing you can do is to set them ablaze. Now, we are also told that even excavators have been burned.
Yes.
How do these people think? I mean, just how do they think? And you know something? One of the things that we forget is that although the money for paying for this equipment and so on may be coming from the accounts of persons who may be doing small-scale mining, illegal mining, or sand reading and so on, ultimately, it is the cocoa farmers' sweat and toil which yields the dollars, pounds, and euros that we use to pay for these imports. So I can show a little respect to the cocoa farmer who breaks back-breaking work, who do back-breaking work to bring in these dollars, euros, and so on. And it's so pathetic. And the shock of it, the act itself is extremely foolish. But the shock of it is that you have honorable members of parliament supporting this foolishness. And that's the shock of it.
And they are honorable men.
Honorable members of parliament using valuable time in parliament to support extreme foolishness.
Recklessness.
And it's unbelievable.
I'm going to say they may hold you before the privileges committee.
Oh, I'll be very happy to go to the privileges committee on this occasion for parliament to tell me that what happened in Kumbungu was not foolish.
Yeah, absolutely foolish.
This is absolutely foolish. And supported by honorable members of parliament. And this is really incredible. And then on top of that, we are told that if you suspect that somebody is committing a crime, shoot him, kill him. And these are the same members of parliament who were at the funeral of Major Mahama, pretending to be weeping. What is the difference between the mindset of those who lynch Major Mahama and those who are saying that we should shoot to kill persons who suspect to be, committing crime? So when we suspect that parliamentarians are committing crime, should we shoot them too? When we suspect that ministers are committing crime, should we shoot them too? What is wrong in our society? This is impunity of the highest order, supported by members of parliament. This is a clear disrespect to the 1992 constitution, which is supported by members of parliament. This extreme foolishness, supported by members of government, the parliament. I cannot believe this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pratt, for your submission. It's 12 midday already.
Ishan, do you now understand why some of us refuse to be addressed with that title? Honestly, no. See, Ishan, to be very honest, even in Parliament, because the conduct of some members are completely dishonorable, that there's no any pride in wanting to be addressed as an honorable member.
Yeah. Be careful. Be
careful about what?
It's in the fraternity.
Yes, I know, right? It's so dishonorable. I mean, this statement.
We will pause here. And thank you, listeners and viewers on Facebook, for making time to join us today on Alhaji and Alhaji, the mother of all talk shows. We started the journey at 9 and we are ending now. My guest, Mr. Christopher Jr., the managing editor of the Insight newspaper paper, Professor Nino Dawuna, senior lecturer at the University of Ghana, Legon, Comrade Murtala Ibrahim Mohammed, former deputy trade and industry minister, and lawyer Godwin Ediji Tamaklo, a private legal practitioner. They helped me to look at the issues of the fight against corruption, the prosecution of Dr. Stephen Opuni, the issuance of the statement by the Deputy Speaker, first Deputy Speaker of Parliament, that some people must be shot, and then the Maslock matter. These were the issues we tabled for discussion today. Support has been coming from Mr. Patrick, as for Bodu as the producer, the technical crew who made it possible, Kabori, who put us live on Facebook, John, for the assistance given us, the security and the drivers. We are grateful to all of you, and most importantly, you, the listener, for making it a point to join us live on your power station, Radio Gold 90.5. We will be here, God willing, next week Saturday for another edition of Alhaji and Alhaji. My name is Sami Ishen. Do have a real fruitful day.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom.